Child care provider Jennifer Peary is suing her former client, correctional officer Mitchell Chambers, for breaking their contract. Mitchell claims she was neglecting his children.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 586 on the calendar in the matter of Peary versus Chambers. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, lady, have seats, please.
Ms. Peary, you had provided child care for Mr. Chambers' children for some time. Your complaint is that he removed his 2 children from your daycare facility recently without giving you the requisite month's notice. He had only given you 2 weeks' notice because he had paid the beginning of the month and he removed the children in the middle of the month. Mr. Chambers states that he believes that his children received inadequate care. He was quite concerned about an incident that occurred at your daycare facility with one of his children, and because of that, he should not be required to give you the 30 days notice. That's your position, sir. Is that right?
That is my position, Your Honor.
Okay. When did you start to take care of the Chambers children?
Initially in January of 2001.
And how old were they at that time?
They were quite young. The youngest was crawling, and their older was around 1-ish.
That would be hard. How old were your children in January of 2001, sir?
I believe my youngest was just about 6 months, and the older, I believe, Your Honor, was just turned 2.
And they were there full time?
That's correct.
Now, there was a time when they left your facility for a brief period of time, and then they came back a few months later. When did they terminate your service?
December.
December what?
Of 2002.
December what?
Well, they had paid through the last day of December.
When did they remove the children? What date? Yes, sir.
December 19th, I believe, Your Honor.
Oh, right, where they did not come back. That's correct.
Now, Mr. Chambers, you're going to tell me why you removed the children on the 19th.
On that date, I, along with my friend, had gone to pick up my children. It was approximately 4:45. When I arrived, my child, who was 3 at the time, was sitting next to a piano in the living room, crying, and he had...
What's his name?
His name is Tyler. And he was wearing this shirt, Your Honor, and it was soaked on this sleeve, and he had chewed little holes in here. He was sitting on the floor. I didn't see any adult, so I went over and I addressed him and asked what was going on. At that stage, my 2-year-old ran up and said, Tyler's in trouble. Then the adult supervisor at the time, whose name was Liz, entered the room and said, "Oh, I'm glad you're here. We're very angry at Tyler." I asked her, well, what's going on? She goes, he scratched Mrs.
Just a second. Is Liz an employee of yours?
Yes, ma'am.
Where is she now?
Because of the incident, they had a state investigation, and all claims were cleared. And so
Where is she now?
She's working at the daycare.
You did not bring her?
No, ma'am.
Where were you during this incident?
I was present.
You were there at 4:45 p.m.?
I had left at 3:45.
So you weren't there at 4:45?
Correct.
Her employee's working. She chose not to bring her. I'm going to let you tell me what she told you.
Yes, ma'am. And also,
She said they were very angry at Tyler.
They were very angry at Tyler. He had scratched Miss Jen's piano. She showed me the scratches. There was considerable damage. He is only 3. To me, it was my understanding he had been doing it for some time.
Did Tyler cause considerable damage to your piano?
No, I did a simple polish on the piano, and they all but disappeared.
At the time, it looked like it was scratched?
Oh, it had been scratched, but it wasn't considerable. It wasn't anything that I was too concerned about. But he had done something.
Okay. Were you present when he scratched the piano?
Yes, ma'am.
What time did he scratch the piano?
It was during nap time, which was 12:30, between 12:30 and 2 o'clock.
Well, where were you?
During nap time, he lays in the living area, the general area, and I am in the kitchen area, which overlooks the general area.
You did not see him marking up the piano?
No, I did not.
When did you discover that he had marked up the piano?
When I was cleaning up after nap time.
What time, 2 o'clock?
Yes, it was between 2 and 2:30, and had found the scratches and said, "Tyler, did you do this? What happened?" And he showed me he had brought in a piece of clay from outside. We'd had a windstorm and a pot broke. Brought it in and had started writing his T's and his letters on the piano.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
This is not a business for you, madam.
I've been in the business for 13 years.
Well, I
love
want to tell
their
you something.
children.
I don't know where, but I wouldn't leave my child with you.
They're very well watched over. In fact,
What I'm telling you is it's outrageous.
And later today,
I finally got the chow off, and I went back to get the Rottweiler off. That's when I got bit in the thumb. I picked my dog up, and he was full of holes.
child care provider Jennifer Peary says former client Mitchell Chambers owes for breaking their contract. Mitchell claims Jennifer gave his son a 3-hour timeout.
So from 2:30 to 4:45, he was in timeout.
no, ma'am, no. He was in a 15-minute timeout.
Yeah. Well, why was he still sitting in a corner at 4:45 crying?
That is not the case.
Well, you weren't there from 3:45 until at least 4:45. Is that right?
I did ask
Okay. Now, what did her employee Liz tell you?
I asked her, well, when did this happen? And she stated between 12:30 and 1. The children were down for naps, and she heard Miss Jen scream and was upset about the piano, and then she said that they found some pottery in the room. They asked Tyler, and Tyler said he had scratched the piano. And this is the shirt that he was wearing, and his diaper was also wet. I have reason to believe I can't understand that he wasn't there for 3 hours.
Right. Your Honor, he regularly chewed on his clothing. He was a very nervous child, and he regularly chewed holes in his clothing and had quite a bit of saliva and drool, so that was very normal for him to chew on his clothing. And when I left at 3:45, I told my employee, go make dinner, get, the evening ready. He was done with his timeout. It had been done and over with.
Who was your employee?
Liz.
How many children do you have?
There were probably approximately 11.
11 children, and how many employees? One?
It is myself.
You
and-
weren't there at
Right.
3:45.
I have 3 employees.
How many were there that day?
2. At that time, it was 1.
And you told the one employee that was there to go inside in the kitchen and get ready for dinner?
At the time,
That's what you just
she
told
is
me.
not
I mean,
left
is that
with-
what you just told
Right.
me? You told me
Right.
you left, you had one other employee, you had 11 children, including at least 2 toddlers, one 2 years old and one 3 years old.
Right.
One that had already brought a sharp enough object into the house so that they could damage a piece of wood. That piece of sharp object that he brought in from the house could just as easily have hurt him as hurt your piano. And you left 11 children in the care of one person who you told to go in and prepare dinner.
There were not 11 children there at the time.
Well, that's
there
what
was
I
there
asked you.
in the day.
I asked you how many children were there on December 19th.
For
How
the
many
total day. But when I leave one employee in charge, no more than 8 children can be there at a time.
Good. You left
Sorry.
one person with 8 children,
Correct.
toddlers, and you told that employee to go and prepare dinner.
Right. She takes the children with her into the kitchen area.
Miss
She
Perry?
has, pardon me?
You're going from bad to worse, madam.
Oh, I'm just trying to get my point across. because
You're getting your point across. She takes all 8 children with her into the kitchen to cook dinner?
That is
Where were you
correct.
going at 2:45?
My daughter has piano practice, and I take her to practice, and then I come back home. So the situation had not gotten out of hand.
Miss Perry,
Yes, ma'am.
this is not a business for you, madam.
I've been in the business for 13 years.
Well, I
love
want to tell
their
you something. I
children.
don't know where, but I wouldn't leave my child with you. You have 8 toddlers that you're putting in a kitchen with somebody who's preparing dinner, and you're out taking your daughter to piano practice. That's outrageous.
They're very well watched over. In fact,
What I'm telling you is it's outrageous, and you shouldn't be here. So if you've been in business for 13 years, I would suggest that you take your business and its good name and walk out the door, because if they gave you 2 weeks' notice under these circumstances, that's all you were entitled to. Goodbye.
Can I mention the state?
Goodbye.
She didn't even let me
Why
say
is that
anything.
excused? They step out.
They had the state investigate me. They did a 30-day grueling investigation, and I was cleared of all charges.
It doesn't mean it didn't happen. It just means that they couldn't prove it.
I really don't think they wanted to pay me. They wanted to get out of payment, and so they made up a story.
The children obviously aren't old enough to really be a witness. They pretty much took my version and then her version and said it was a draw.
I feel like this is a defeat for men that have women abusing the legal system to get material things from men.
He makes up stories and he actually believes them.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Davis versus Wallace, step forward, please.
26-year-old homemaker Shoshana Davis and her son, 7-year-old Raleek Wilkes, are suing her aunt, airport security screener Yvette Wallace, for causing her son's finger to be severed.
Miss Davis, Miss Wallace is your aunt, is that right?
Yes.
And this is your son.
Yes.
He's 7?
Yes.
And what's your first name?
Raleek?
Raleek.
Yes.
Miss Wallace, this is your daughter.
Yes.
You like him? Is that right? You play together occasionally? According to your complaint, Miss Davis, you were at your aunt's house, socializing,
Yes.
sitting in the kitchen, having a cup of coffee,
Yes.
and the kids were playing.
Yes.
And at some point, this young lady went into the bathroom.
Yes.
According to you, she slammed Raleek's finger in the door, causing the tip of his finger to come off.
Yes.
And then you took him to the hospital, and they had to find the tip of the finger, and you say Miss Wallace didn't get the tip of the finger there fast enough. To make a long story short, Raleek is missing a little piece of his finger. And you want your aunt to pay for all of his medical bills and for pain and suffering. You want her to pay you $5,000, right?
Yes.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
You're sitting with your aunt in the kitchen, having a cup of coffee. What happens? Was he in the kitchen with you and followed her into the bathroom?
No, he wasn't. They was playing in Christina's bedroom.
Right.
Christina runs into the bathroom after hitting Raleek. And
She hit him.
Yes.
Where did she hit him?
On my leg?
You mean she hit you because she was angry with you?
No.
Was she playing around? Huh?
Yes.
Sure she was. And then she went into the bathroom. What did you do, Raleek?
I ran after her.
Right. And she slammed the door?
Yes.
And you got your finger caught in the door.
Yes.
So? That's what happened.
Yes. And I'm suing because it's his left hand. He cannot participate in certain activities in school because it's his left hand.
Should have watched him more carefully, Miss Davis. You're his mother. Why didn't you watch him?
I was not in the apartment.
I thought you said you were in the apartment.
Miss Wallace, he was in Miss Wallace's care as I was in the hallway. Now,
Just a second. What do you mean he was... Shh, just a second.
Your Honor, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought you just told me you were socializing with your aunt.
We was engaging in conversation.
Who was?
Me and the other tenants that live inside the projects. There was an incident in the building, and I was standing in the hallway. I was not in the apartment at the present time.
Just a second. You didn't leave him in her care. Just because she stayed in the apartment and minded her own business, you went outside to mind somebody else's business. If you were so concerned about your son's welfare, you should have stayed in the apartment.
You're right, Your
Why
Honor.
do you blame somebody else?
But no, I'm not blaming her at that matter. I'm blaming her because we do conjugate like that.
Fine. Well, then why are you blaming her and suing her for this incident that occurred that had no fault on her part?
Okay.
None at all. Her daughter was playing with your son. He ran after her in the bathroom.
Yes.
She slammed the door.
Yes.
And he got his finger caught in the door because
Yes.
he put his finger in the door. Why should she pay you $5,000?
Why? Because while we was there, no one ever, Christina never apologized. Plus, because of his, this is permanent defective.
But
He
that
has to
doesn't
have
mean that
surgery.
just because he's got a permanent injury doesn't mean that your aunt is liable for that injury.
Why not? If it was done in her house in...
You brought your child there.
Yes.
You are responsible to supervise your child, not her. You.
Yes.
If you had brought your child there and said to her, will you supervise and take care of Raleek while I go to the store?
But Your Honor...
I'm speaking.
Okay.
And she said, I will take care of him. Then you might have a case against her
Yes.
for inadequate supervision.
Yes, Your Honor.
But you're there. You're his mother. He's hurt.
Yes.
He's hurt while in your care. Just because you walked outside to be a yenta in the hallway
No, Your
doesn't
Honor.
mean because you left her in the apartment that she's responsible. No, Miss Davis. You're still responsible.
Your Honor, she knew I was going in the hallway.
That doesn't mean anything if she knew you were going in the hallway, Miss Davis. Doesn't mean anything. She has to assume the responsibility and say to you, I will take care of your son while you go out.
Yes, Your Honor. This is how it was.
No, it wasn't. Stop making it up as you're going along.
Never.
Never,
We'll
never.
do
Your
that.
case is dismissed, Miss Davis. I want you to get a life. Be responsible. It's your son. You take care of him. Not somebody else. It's not her fault.
But, Your Honor, you didn't even look at his finger.
It doesn't make any difference what happened to his finger, madam. He's your child. You are responsible for supervising him and taking care of him. And don't make it somebody else's fault. It was your fault that you didn't watch him more carefully. If you did, he wouldn't have had his finger chopped off. It's not her fault. She went into the bathroom. They were playing. She slammed the door. His finger was in the door. You don't make a lawsuit out of nothing. Goodbye. A talker.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I wasn't responsible for watching her son.
Christina never apologized. They never called.
He wanted to play wrestling or whatever.
They didn't show no type of remorse of nothing. No sort.
I wasn't watching her child.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Epps versus Ward. Step forward, please.
24-year-old bus driver Matisha Epps is suing her former friend, 22-year-old college student Melinda Ward, for an unpaid loan for a car.
Well, there's certain things, Miss Epps, in your complaint that I understand and some that I'm a little confused about. So let me start with what I do understand. You tell me if I'm correct. This was a friend of yours?
No, this is my cousin's girlfriend.
But she was a friend of yours?
Yeah.
And she wanted to buy a car?
Yes.
And she asked you for a loan for the down payment on the car?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you wrote out a check for the dealership for how much money? $2,500?
$2,500.
And you post-dated the check?
Yes, Your Honor.
She said to you, according to your complaint, don't worry, by the time the date comes when the check is going to be deposited, I will have enough money so that I'll give it to you and the check will be covered.
No, Your Honor. She's supposed to pay it to the finance company.
So she was going to pay it herself so that they would never cash your check?
Exactly, Your Honor.
Well, she didn't do that.
No.
And they cashed your check?
Exactly.
And you were forced to make good on that check?
Yes.
Now, Miss Ward says she called you before the time that they cashed your check and told you to put a stop payment on the check because she wasn't going to be able to come up with the money.
Yes, my ex-fiance called Matisha Epps a week prior to October 21st and asked her to place stop payment on the check. For whatever reason, she didn't do so.
Just a second, because you weren't going to have the money.
Yes.
Did he ever call you?
Yes, Your Honor, he did.
And what did he say when he called you?
He told me that they weren't going to have the money yet, and so I could put a stop payment on the check.
And why didn't you do that?
It was just like a couple of days in advance. I don't believe it was a week in advance. It was just like maybe a couple of days in advance when he called and told me that they weren't going to have the money. And by the time that I called the bank, it was too late. They had posted the check.
But he called you before.
Yeah.
Well, why didn't you stop payment on it? Why didn't you call immediately that day?
I work 6 days a week and I work long hours.
If you work 6 days a week and long hours, it would seem to me that $2,500 is important to you. So now I understand, and I understand that you made the call. Did you, in fact, buy that car? Is not an answer.
Okay. Yes, I did buy the car.
Good. So you got the benefit of her $2,500. Is that right?
Yes.
So what difference does it make? What are you? Are you stupid? Is he stupid? If you said to me I couldn't afford to buy the car, and I didn't buy the car, but you bought the car using her $2,500, and now you don't think that you have to pay her back?
Well, had she have placed stop payment on the check, I wouldn't have even had the car.
Just a second. You're some piece of work. Now, what kind of moral character do you think that I believe that you have because you didn't pay her back the $2,500?
I tried.
What do you mean you tried? What does that mean you tried?
Well, after the check went through, my ex-fiance and I attempted to give her $200 in which she could have put towards the check. She said she didn't want anything to do with it. Yeah. She gave us the number to call whoever the financial company that was dealing with the check. They didn't want to deal with us because it was her check. So we definitely tried.
Well, you're making payments now on the car, aren't you?
No, I don't have the car anymore.
Where is it?
It got totaled in an accident.
When?
Last July.
You think I should believe everything you're telling me?
I don't have a reason to lie.
Go ahead.
I also like to say, this is my cousin. Miss Epps is my cousin. I went to her house. We did the best we could, honestly.
No, you didn't. You did the best you could. You were driving around in a car that she paid for. The best you could is to pay her back the $2,500.
That's what I'm saying. When we realized that we weren't going to have all the money, we went to talk with her. We contacted her, and we also went to talk with her about that. I went to her with money in my hand. She said, because like she said, because she works and everything, I was under the impression that, you know, she didn't want to deal with it. She told me to deal with it, you know, the best way I could.
Did you ever hear the expression, no good deed goes unpunished?
Yes.
That's what happened. They are two amoral people. I was sympathetic with them at first. If he called and said, listen, we don't have the money, and you didn't get around to calling and putting a stop payment on the check, but then they went ahead and bought the car and paid for it. How long did you drive that car before it was totaled?
A year.
And during that year, if they had said, every month I'm going to give you $200, you would have had your money.
Yes.
You didn't do that, did you? The answer is yes or no. Did you do that?
We wasn't allowed to. No, we wasn't allowed to, Your Honor. If I can explain to you.
No, you can't explain to me.
Okay.
You mean to tell me that if every month you put $200 in an envelope and left it in her mailbox, that she would have taken the $100 bills and thrown them away? Is that what you think? Is that what you think?
No.
What kind of work do you do?
Right now, I'm a,
What kind of work do you do?
Actually, I'm unemployed right now.
Right.
I was a custodian.
Right, you're unemployed right now. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500. That's all. Goodbye.
Bodies are excused and they step out.
My credit was damaged.
It's my cousin. I love her.
It took away from vacations for me and my kids.
Sorry about that, too.
I apologize. I hope you can forgive me.
I can. I have no hard feelings at all.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of DeVault versus Eddie, step forward.
21-year-old student Amy DeVault is suing her ex-boyfriend, 21-year-old car salesman Cliff Eddy, for the down payment on a car and for several unpaid loans.
Ms. DeVault, according to your claim, the defendant owes you for a down payment that you loaned to him for a car.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Now, Mr. Eddy, if I'm reading your answer correctly, sir, you acknowledge that she gave you the down payment for the car. Is that right?
That's correct.
And it was a loan.
That's correct.
But you say she owes you money, so it's a wash.
Yeah.
Okay. So then we can go over the basics very quickly. You were living together with him when you made this loan?
For a very short time, yes.
What's the short time?
I probably had moved in and moved out within a matter of 4 or 5 days.
And during that 4 or 5 day period is the time that you made this loan?
Yes.
Don't you ever watch this courtroom? Ever? Did you ever see the cases here?
Yes.
Did you ever learn anything?
I've learned a lesson now.
Sometimes you have to get burned yourself, and you can't learn by somebody else's mistakes. But I want you to keep watching. And how much was the down payment that you loaned to him?
The down payment was $1,000, and the loan was just over $1,000 for the coverage in case we couldn't make a payment.
You're suing for $1,711. What's the rest of the money for?
I had moved in with him, and I'd given him $200 for my share of the rent. I had also paid a few bills for him, which he ensured that I would be reimbursed for, a water bill and groceries, things like that. I bought tons of things for him. You know, I'll pay you back. I just don't have money right now, he assured me. He'd lost his job, and he had paychecks that had insufficient funds behind them.
I mean, all this happened in the 4 or 5 days?
No, we had been dating for a couple of months.
According to your complaint, you have some sort of an IOU that he wrote.
Yes.
Well, I'd like to see it. Where did you get this note from?
From a store where you purchase stationary legal documents.
When did you purchase this?
In the beginning of June.
Last June?
Yes.
And tell me what days you lived with him?
Approximately the end of May, beginning of June.
And what made you have him sign this June 30th note?
I had moved out and I wanted the money for the rent money that I had given him, and I wanted it back because I didn't live there for more than 2 or 3 days in June, which the money was for June's rent, and he had spent it.
Show this to him, please. Is that your signature, sir?
Yes, it is.
So you signed this note for $315, right?
That's correct.
Now, I'm just curious, Mr. Vault, what happened to the $1,000 for the car?
After the loan had gone through, we went to the bank and we had cashed.
No, but I'm asking you is you moved out.
Yes.
Right? So why would you have him sign a note for $315 when actually he owed you, according to you, at least $1,300? Why is this only for $315?
I have a second contract.
Let me see it. All right. Well, we're talking about two different things. You took out a loan. Now, was this the loan for the car?
Yes.
All right. He's paid off the car loan.
No,
Is that right, sir?
No.
That's what you said.
I paid off the balance of the vehicle. This was a separate loan through Wells Fargo Bank.
For what?
For $1,000 cash, down payment for the vehicle.
Oh, I see. This you didn't pay off?
No.
Okay. Now, your defense is, sir, that she owed you money.
Yeah.
I'm waiting.
Well, we started dating. We were dated for about 4 or 5 months. She was in a sorority house then, and she would stay over at my house frequently, almost every night. When summertime came, you have to leave the house for the summer. So she moved in with me then. In the process of that, I was working at a dealership in Corvallis there, and I was looking for another vehicle. I went down to...
Could you get what she owes you money for, sir? Is that what we're getting to?
Yeah, that's what we're getting to.
Let's get there faster.
Okay. But I went down to the bank to get the loan. I couldn't get the loan because I have bad credit. So she was living with me at the time. She offered to help me out with that. We did that. There was no necessarily written contracts or anything of that
Get
nature.
to what she owes you money for, sir. I already got that part of the story. I finished with that. What does she owe you money for? What do you think? I don't remember my question? I'm not that old. Get there. Go ahead.
Well, she owes me money for the $315. I don't think is a necessary reimbursement. Other than that, the vehicle loan was paid off. There was no written contract for that. I don't think that I owe that money. The $315.
Listen to me.
It should be a wash.
Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I want you to tell me. I don't want you to tell me, sir, that this you don't think is right, and this you don't think is right.
Mm-hmm.
Your defense to this case is she owes me money, and therefore the $1,700 she's suing me for, the loan and the promissory note, it's a wash because she actually owed me about the same amount of money. That's your defense. Now, so you either have two things that you can do. Either you can say to me, I didn't know what I was doing when I wrote my answer because she really doesn't owe me any money. And my defense is, blah. Or you can tell me what she owes you money for.
She lived with me for about 4 months.
Okay, go ahead. She lived with you for 4 months. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, she lived with me for about 4 or 5 days, about 2 weeks, I would rather say. About 2 weeks. But the whole time prior to that, she was staying at my house almost every single day.
Yes.
And that was a matter of bills and whatnot.
Go ahead. So what does she owe you?
My duplex ran about $750 a month was my rent, plus the bills. All the bills were in my name. I lived there by myself.
Yes.
For the whole time together, I think that it should be a washout. It's a washout.
When she would come over and stay at your duplex with you, did she also maintain a room in the college dorm or someplace else?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you pay for half of that rent?
No.
Did you ever have an agreement with her to pay for half the rent while she was staying over at your
No.
house periodically?
Mm-mm.
So I want you to go like this. Blah, 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 blah. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,700. That's all.
These are excused. You may step 5.
I have about 5 months, bills out.
I'm tired of trying to deal with this, get my money back.
Balance is out to about $1,500.
None of it's true.
I don't think that I owe her the whole amount, or any of the amount at all.
It's been terrible.
Vindictiveness.
She was an emotional wreck. He was a jerk.
Machine operator Margaret Jones is suing her deceased son's girlfriend, 27-year-old teacher's aide Melissa Filarecki, for the return of her son's belongings. Melissa is countersuing for harassment.
Order. All rise.
Now, this is case number 181 on the calendar in the matter of Jones versus Filarecki.
Thank you.
Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Mrs. Jones, the defendant was your son's girlfriend for a
Right.
long time.
Yes.
How long did you live together?
5.5 years.
No, not that long.
That's what she says.
I'm sorry.
And your son was in a tragic accident and was killed.
Yes, he
And
was.
what you want from the defendant is property that you say belonged to your son. It was your
Yes,
son's
ma'am.
property.
Yes.
The defendant says that they lived together for a long time. They accumulated property together. She has given you some of his personal property, but the rest she feels is hers. And she is also counterclaiming because she says you've been harassing her, and there is some property that you have that actually belongs to her, right? I assume you would not have brought your counterclaim if the plaintiff had not brought her claim.
Right.
Is that a fair statement?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so I'm going to go to you for a minute. When did you and Mrs. Jones's son move in together?
Back in 97.
Okay. Tell me about the accident. Were either of you present when the accident happened?
Right after I was.
What was the date of the accident?
November 16, 2001.
And it was an automobile accident, is that right?
No, ATV, four-wheel terrain vehicle.
Okay. What items of personal property do you want?
He has a ring from Sealy Company, a gold ring that they had given him. Literally what I have right now is I had his work clothes, which were junk.
His work clothes, yes.
They're junk. I mean, they're holes.
Right.
I can do nothing with them.
Go ahead.
Things that I want back are the things that I was part of his life for, that he had bought.
Well, talk to
himself.
me. I so far hear a gold ring. This
Their
is a court.
stereo equipment,
His stereo equipment?
speakers,
Just a minute,
amplifiers.
Just a minute. Stereo? So far that has no sentimental value at all. What's next?
PlayStation, all his games. These were his things that he would have given to his nephews.
How old was your son when he passed away?
He was 26.
When did he buy the stereo?
Just within the last couple of years.
When he was living with the defendant?
Yeah, but everything he bought, I'm willing, if she has receipts, they'll probably fall on the credit cards that I've been paying for the last 3 years.
Why have you been doing that?
Because he was paying for her truck a lot. She kept getting it repossessed, didn't have the money to make her truck payments, so he would make her truck payments, then he wouldn't be able to pay his bills.
So he'd come to you and you'd make gifts to him?
No, not gifts. He had him pay him back.
Did he pay you back?
Not all of it. He died before.
Well, no court is going to go through all those bills and figure out what he paid and what he didn't pay. I mean, these people lived together for, let's say, minimally 5 years. They had a home together. I mean, I can understand as his mother you might want certain sentimental things, but let's proceed with the list that you say. We have a stereo, we have
Yep.
a PlayStation. Go ahead, what else?
VCR, his DVD, his nice clothing that he had that wasn't all tore up. There was a lot of Dale Earnhardt collectibles that I had bought in him.
Yes, race cars. Go ahead.
He collected all things that I had bought in him through the years for Dale Earnhardt.
That you gave him as gifts.
To my son.
That you gave him as gifts.
Yes,
Once
yes,
you
ma'am.
give him things as gifts, they're gifts. What else?
He had car amplifiers, which were at one time in my truck. He had a cash box full of credit cards, which I had to call credit card companies because she kept those.
So you called the credit card companies and canceled them.
Yes.
Go ahead, Miss Jones.
I mean, he had all of his clothing, everything that was important to me, what David was into, and everything that was important to him.
Everything that was important to your son, he shared with the person he lived with, Miss Jones.
Well,
the only thing that you said to me that in any way moves me is a gold ring. A gold ring that may have had some sentimental value for you. A stereo doesn't have sentimental value. Neither does a VCR, a DVD, a car amplifier. Put my glasses on to see what else. a PlayStation, even small race cars don't have sentimental value for you. I can understand you wanting to have something that belonged to your son that you can keep, that you can hold, that you can put in a box.
Well,
the only thing that would be is a ring. The rest of the stuff only has monetary value.
When this first happened, when David first passed away, Melissa asked me if she could use David's things, because I had went down and got from Surrogate Court, so I was taking care of his estate.
Let me see what you have from Surrogate's Court.
And she asked me, could she use his things?
Let me just a minute.
Of course I said yes, she could.
I want to see what it says here.
Okay.
Okay, all this says is you can act as his voluntary administratrix. Was there any insurance or any other settlement as a result of this accident?
Life insurance?
Any insurance, any lawsuit, any money?
Life insurance.
Okay, and who was the beneficiary?
I was.
Okay, and how much was the life insurance policy?
$40,000.
Okay, so you got $40,000, so that the sum total of his estate was the $40,000.
Well, there was another insurance that he had through J.C. Penney, accidental death and dismemberment,
yes,
and that was $125,000.
And who got that?
I did.
Okay.
He left everything to me.
Fine, and you got all that already.
Right.
So why are we here? I don't understand why we're here.
Because these were his things. She made an agreement with me. She said, in her exact words, when I move out of this house, I will return everything of Davis to you. And I believed her. I took her for her word, which, when she did move out of the house, she did leave the things. The next morning, they were gone.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She said, I want these things, and if I don't get these things today, I will kill your daughter, and she will come home in a body bag.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Margaret Jones is suing her deceased son's girlfriend, Melissa Filarecki, for the return of his belongings. Melissa says Margaret already has everything.
All right, I'll hear you. Go ahead.
Your Honor, I do have the ring for her.
Can I see it, please?
Yes, you may.
You say it was a gold ring?
It's supposed to be.
What does it say on it?
From the Sealy Mattress Company.
What was it for?
He was Employee of the Month many, many times. Many
What
times.
else do you have in the bag?
I have the list of stuff I left in the apartment for Margaret.
Can I see it, please? What else is in the bag?
Oh, just pictures, and I have a pin that he got from Sealy. Yeah, you want the whole thing?
Mm-hmm. Did the defendant give you the following? Necklace, charms, class ring, and keychain with baby pictures on it.
Yes, those I got. Those were things I gave my son, yes.
She gave them back to you?
Yes, she did.
A teddy bear with a graduation year on it.
That I don't remember.
Title to a motorcycle, a 1998 four-wheeler Rabbit.
Title's in his name, yes.
She gave it
Yes.
to you?
They were in his name.
Dale Earnhardt Collectibles.
No, there's only a few pieces.
But she gave you some?
She gave me some of them.
A home gym?
Yes.
Coffee table
No.
he made in high school?
No, I haven't seen that.
Your Honor,
Yes.
it was not left on the back porch. The door was broken off.
Camcorder?
Yes.
All the Christmas decorations?
No.
Model cars?
The only model cars that I know of, and I don't have them, is the cars that I bought for him, but I don't have them now.
Raiders collections?
That's 3/4 away going too. There's only a few pieces left of that.
Car
She gave me
parts, stereo, and speakers?
No.
What'd you do with those?
They left everything on the back porch.
No.
Listen, in the 5 years that you were together, did you exchange gifts?
Yes, we did.
Were you both employed?
Yes, we were.
What kind of work were you doing?
I was a certified nurse's aide, and I also went to school full-time.
When you leased these apartments together, did you purchase things for the apartment together?
Yes, we did.
And you kept a stereo and a VCR and a DVD?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a cash box that you know about?
That's where I got the ring, and I do have the credit cards with me.
Okay, you can give those to her. She's already canceled them. Ms. Jones, I'm going to tell you the following, and then I'm going to very quickly address your counterclaim. When somebody dies, an easier emotion to deal with is usually anger.
Yes, ma'am.
You said yes. Do you really understand what I mean? The sadness. Is this your daughter?
Yes, it is.
You see, it's much easier to be angry at somebody than to be hurt and feel sad, because you can vent it out. You can get it out. Whereas dealing with the sorrow of somebody's death is much more painful. Whether they had a good relationship or a bad relationship, your son was together with this woman for 4.5 years, and he was a young man. So for the better part of really his adult life, they were together. They were a couple. Whether you thought they were good for each other or bad for each other, it's irrelevant. She was part of his life for a very long time. She tried to do the right thing with you. I mean, if you're talking to me about this ring, you're talking about not a gold ring. I don't even think it's a silver ring. It's a ring that says Celie on it. She's giving it to you. There's a pin there that also was an Employee of the Month pin. She's giving that to you. It's easier to be angry at her than to either accept certain responsibilities that you might feel for his death, maybe his sister, because this accident was with an ATV, an all-terrain vehicle.
Yes.
Were you there?
I was on it.
She was involved in it.
I mean, I could tell from looking at her that there's more than just grief there, so many months away from the incident, that there may be a little bit of guilt attached. Maybe. But that's not her fault. That's not her fault. Nothing's going to bring your son back. Certainly a stereo, a VCR, and a DVD are not going to bring your son back.
Nothing can bring my son back. You're right.
Right. Nothing. Not the $125,000 you got from one insurance policy or the $40,000 that you got from the other insurance policy. Not a VCR, a DVD, and his clothing. They're not going to bring him back.
Well,
these are little mementos that she says you can have.
Told me before she didn't have them.
Oh, well, here they are.
Can I speak,
And
Your
I
Honor?
want you to have them. That's all. You can give these back to the plaintiff. Do you want to proceed with this counterclaim that you have for harassment, or you just
Yes.
want to say, listen, let's try to be friends?
No, I do.
I'm listening.
I have the police report. She called and threatened my mom that my mom was going to know.
Is your mother here?
Yes, she is.
Tell me your name.
Linda Villarecki. I'm her mother.
You want to tell me about this phone call that you got from the plaintiff?
Yes, it was a day or two after Melissa moved back home. I had gotten a phone call from Margaret wanting to speak to Melissa, and I wasn't sure who it was, and I asked who she was. She said, Margaret. And I said, Margaret, she's not here. She's working right now. And she said she promised to give me David's PlayStation and surround sound, and she had mentioned things, and I said, Margaret, I would never want to be in your position that you're into. I said, I would never want that. She said, I want these things, and if I don't get these things today, I will kill your daughter, and she will come home in a body bag, and she will know how it feels to lose a child. And I said, Margaret, I would never want to be in your position. And she just went, she was out of control, and I just hung up on her.
Anger is a much easier thing to deal with than sorrow, because she's able to lash out at you rather than dealing internally with the sorrow of the event
Right.
and the sorrow of the loss.
But I was worried that she was so upset that she had, it was possible.
And you made a police report.
Yes.
Can I see the police report, please?
And, Your Honor, I also missed 2 weekends of work because I also waitress on the weekends.
In Troy.
In Troy. And my boss wrote me a letter.
I don't read letters from bosses. This report is dated in June. Is that right?
Yes.
The police did ask her not to, just try to stay away from Troy as much as she could for a while until Margaret did calm down.
Did the police come to your house, Mrs. Jones, and speak to you?
No, they did not, Your Honor.
They should have.
I have my police report here where they
I'd
for
like to
larceny, and I never bothered her at her job.
I didn't ask you
call her
about your job.
house.
I'm talking to you about this phone call. I believe her mother that
Oh.
you had this conversation with her.
I had a conversation with Melissa when she called me
No,
3 or
with her
4
mother.
times.
I'm talking with her mother.
3 or 4 times she's called me.
Did you understand
Yes,
what I
ma'am, I
said?
did.
I'm talking about the conversation with her mother. I absolutely believe her mother when her mother says to me that you said, unless I get these things back, you're going to see your daughter in a body bag, then you'll know how it feels. What kind of thing is that to say? It's only because you're angry.
They were never together that length of time either because she had left and went with another guy for a while. The first night of his wake, she had another man sleeping over. And I'd say just about every
there,
week
Margaret.
after that, there was a different guy in there.
Let me explain something to you. I don't believe that.
That's the honest to God truth.
I don't believe that. Just as I don't believe that you took $165,000 that you got when your son died, right, and went and blew it in Las Vegas.
What?
I wouldn't believe that because you don't look like that kind of person. You look like a reasonable kind of person. And I'm looking at her, and I don't believe that she brought another guy to his, she may have brought another person who was a male to his wake. Listen,
No, excuse me.
let's
Maybe
not. You have an anger, and I'm trying very hard to be nice to you.
I know you are.
I am really trying very hard to be nice to you. Your daughter was involved, at least in this incident.
Yes, she was.
You and your brother, how far apart in age are you?
I'm his twin.
So it was very difficult for you.
She has
It is
nothing
very.
It was very difficult for you. And you actually saw the accident.
He was helping me.
He was helping you when it happened. So you have a certain guilt, right? You have a certain guilt. I understand that. Don't be mad at her. There's no reason to be mad at her. For over a TV, over a VCR, over a stereo. Listen, your son moved out of the house when he was how old?
19.
That's very young to move out of the house. There has to be a reason for that.
He lived right downstairs from me.
I don't care whether we
his
live right
girlfriend.
downstairs.
With
There's
his-
a reason a child moves out of the house when they're 18 years old unless they go away to school.
No, he moved down
These
with
days,
his girlfriend.
now you can't get rid of them until they're 35.
Well, actually, Judge, he swore he'd never leave again, and he's always stayed by me. And she can even tell you I came first in his life. Always.
Well, I want to tell you something. That's not healthy. That's not healthy for a 26-year-old man to have to say, my mother comes first in my life and she always will.
Because I always helped him when he needed help. I always tried to guide him to do the right thing.
That's what you're supposed to do. So you're not supposed to tarnish his death with this kind of stupidity lawsuit. It's stupid.
That's right.
A
I didn't do
VCR, a television set should not bring you to court. You should say whether they were together a year or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. There were certain periods of time when they brought each other pleasure, when they cared for each other. She knows how much he cared for you. She knows how much he cared for you. You're supposed to just be a nice lady. So you got the sentimental things back that I think that she was nice to give back to you, that you have. They're yours. I want you to forget about a VCR. I want you to forget about a PlayStation. And I want you to forget about your counterclaim. She's not thinking rationally. Do you understand? You understand? It's going to take some time because the truth of the matter is, whether you have found another person or not, I certainly hope you have because you're supposed to move on. You're a young woman. She will never get over the death of her child. You don't get over the death of a child. You sometimes get over the death of a partner, a maid, a boyfriend, you know, because you move on with your life and you find someone else to fill that void. She's never going to fill that void, but you have to fill that void with something other than anger because it's not healthy.
I know.
It's not healthy. It's not healthy. Make up. Be nice with each other. Your cases are dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It sucked.
I just wanted to be over with.
She lied about everything and got away with it.
I think I've been more than fair with her.
She lied to me. She made an agreement.
I have no clue.
She made an agreement to give his things back. And I trusted her.
I think I gave them everything.
She probably wants to sell it because her mother won't pay her car payment.
They need to let go.
I will never, ever forgive or respect that girl till the day I die.
She's done nothing, and I'm just worried that they're not going to let go, and they need to let go.
She completely destroyed my brother's memory.
The comments that they make and what they're doing now, it was totally unnecessary, but they just won't let go.
I will never forgive
The
her.
lies are just too
That
much.
is my twin.
Lies.
I have nothing.
I do understand that, but they are making it so hard on her.
I will never forgive her, ever.
We can move on with the grieving process away from each other.
I do not go near them.
They're very angry people.
I was on the quad and it took off. He tried to help me and he got killed.
She might be taking the blame out on me.
I don't ever want to even see her face again.
I miss him.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of D'Antuono versus Holdren. Step forward, please.
26-year-old hairstylist Stephanie D'Antuono is suing her ex-boyfriend, personal trainer Thaddeus Holdren, for an unpaid loan to buy a car. Thaddeus says the money didn't become a loan until they broke up.
Mr. Antuono, I've read your complaint. You claim a loan to the defendant who was your live-in boyfriend for a period of time. Is that right?
Yes.
It was a loan for a car
Correct.
and any other expenses?
Yes, for work that needed to be done on the car.
Mr. Holdren said there was never a loan. His position is that he played the role of house husband.
Yes.
That you have a child that he took care of, and he was a personal trainer. He gave up some time in order to be able to accommodate your schedule. And there was never talk of a loan until two of you separated. So when did you start to live together?
We began to live together only after I had given him the loan. It was in August.
Tell me about the loan.
Thaddeus approached me about loaning him some money for a car that he wanted to buy. I had the funds to help him out, and we discussed it in detail.
Well, what were the details?
How he had to pay me back. There was no confusion as far
Well,
as...
no, don't tell me there was no confusion. Just tell me what the agreement was. You said it was very specific, so tell me the agreement.
I agreed to loan him the money if he agreed to pay me back in full.
Is that as specific as it went?
Pretty much, yes.
Go ahead.
He agreed to pay me within a certain amount of time.
Well, that's more specific. What was the
Yes.
amount of time?
A couple of months.
Okay.
And when he didn't, he told me he was having some problems and wasn't going to be able to pay me at that certain time. So I was upset, but I agreed to allow him more time if he would give me payments. Whenever he had money, if he could give me some cash or, you know, whatever he was able to do.
So?
So he didn't. He failed to pay me.
When did you move in with him?
He moved in with me.
When did he move in with you?
That was about a year later.
So 1 year later, he's made no payments on this loan, and then you move in together.
Well, he...
Just answer my
I'm sorry.
question.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. And you lived together for a year.
No, we did not. We only lived together for about 2.5 months.
Your Honor, a little bit longer than that.
He was at my house on a regular basis, but he did not live there.
Fine. When did that start?
Probably around the time that I gave him the loan. You know, he was staying there maybe a couple nights a week.
More than a couple nights, Your Honor.
That's not correct.
It's over 2 years since this loan was made.
Yes.
And over that period, you have not gotten any payments.
He did pay me $150.
When?
In April of 2001.
Is that right, sir?
I don't know if it was 2001, but I paid her $150. But that's not including everything I did for her and her son. You know,
What did you give her $150 for, Mr. Holdren?
Because, I mean, if I'm with her, or living with her, or whatever, I expect to do something, you know. I mean, taking care of her son and taking care of stuff around the house and stuff.
That doesn't answer my question, Mr. Holdren. What was the $150 for?
Just for her.
Well, tell me how that came about, the $150 payment.
She gave me the money and things happened. Hold on.
Mr. Holdren, you're trying to think about the right answer. I don't want you to think about the right answer, sir. I want you to think about the truthful answer. You said to me, I gave her $150 when I asked you what it was for. You did a song and dance. Now, I'm asking you the circumstances surrounding you giving her this $150 in March.
Well, I gave
If
her
you
money.
say I don't remember what it was for or the surrounding circumstances around it, I will understand that.
Well, I gave her money a couple times, so the $150 is like me giving her money on a regular. I mean, not on a regular, but I gave her money, you know, like any other boyfriend would do. It wasn't like I was giving her $2,000 or you know what I'm saying, like big money, but
Do you remember the circumstances surrounding the $150 payment? The answer is either yes or no.
Yes.
Then tell me what they were.
It was payment for money that I loaned him.
That's not what I asked you. That is the conclusion.
The circumstances?
If you don't remember, say I don't remember. Remember that I will test you. If you don't remember, say it. If you remember, tell me.
I don't remember.
Did he give you any other money during the course of your relationship over the last 2 years?
He paid me $100 after our relationship had ended. This was this past April.
What was the $100 for?
For payment from the loan that I gave him.
Did you give her $100 after you separated?
Yes.
For what?
That was for part of her thinking that I owed her all that money. So $100.
That was
part of me owing her the money.
That was part of her thinking that you owed her the money from the loan?
Right.
Oh, good, that makes it easier. So you did, Mr. Holdren, make a payment to her for this $2,000 loan.
Right.
And you made at least one payment. Is that right?
Right.
And that was made within the past year or so.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to allow you in 30 seconds or less, Mr. Holdren, explain to me why this was not a loan and you don't owe her any money.
Okay, I'll start off with this. We made an agreement when we met. Well, after we met, she has a son. He's 4, well, he was 4 at the time. And her job is very demanding, and she has different hours every day, like early in the morning sometimes and late in the evening sometimes. And her son goes to school early in the morning. She couldn't take him to school, so I would take him to school, get him up, get him dressed, pick him up from daycare, bring him back with me, and wait till she gets off, and he'd hang out with me, whatever, for the period of time, whatever day it was.
So I'm listening. Keep going.
Yeah. I mean, I did everything. I was like a kindergarten cop with him. This whole thing to me is just like she was pimping me through the whole thing. Like, you know, she's my female pimp.
That's a nasty thing to say.
That's how it was, because I was doing everything, but she still just seemed like I owed her this whole $2,500.
Well, let me ask you this question, Mr. Holdren. How much rent did you pay?
I didn't pay rent at her house.
How much did you contribute on a regular basis for food for the house?
Depending if I went out to eat or...
No, in the house.
Little.
How much did you contribute regularly towards the utilities?
None.
So you were basically living rent-free. You had no expenses.
Your Honor, I have my own apartment, too.
Where is your apartment?
At the time, it was on the other side of town from where she lived at, on the west side.
Which side is nicer? Her side.
Yeah.
Mr. Holdren, anything else you want to tell me, sir?
I just felt like I don't owe her the whole $2,500. I mean...
So you don't think you owe her the whole $2,500?
Right.
Tell me what part of the $2,500 you think you owe her.
It would really be hard to say because...
Well, I want you to think hard. I mean, it was your statement that I don't owe her the whole $2,500.
I don't know, because the time that I put into the relationship, not only with her, but her son too, it was like, I couldn't really tell, because I was working in the morning and in the afternoon, and my schedule was flexible because I was a trainer, so I, you know, arrange it where, you know, I could make it a better...
Mr. Holdren,
yes.
What part of the $2,500 do you think you should be given credit for, sir?
I don't know.
So I guess you'll have to leave it up to me, right?
Well, I was hoping you'll feel my side of the story as far as me taking care of her son and everything. Because
no, Mr. Holdren, I'm going to make it very, very easy for you, sir. If there is a contract that provides, even an oral one, that you loaned me this money for the car, and I'm going to work it off by taking care of your son at $1.75 an hour while I'm taking care of him, that will be my contribution, so we're going to take that off the car loan. That's an agreement. But after the fact, you don't make that sort of an agreement. You don't sit back there and scratch your head and say, well, I did all these things for her. Therefore, I shouldn't have to owe her that much on what was originally a loan. Do you understand?
Yes.
That's just a lot of double talk that you're doing for me now. $2,500 was the original loan, and you paid her $250. So judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,250. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I'm just glad that she could see through Thaddeus's lies.
I felt that I shouldn't have to pay that whole amount.
You know, his excuses for why he wasn't paying me.
I felt that I owed her a little bit, but not that much.
I just got tired of his irresponsibility.
I mean, I would have paid her a little bit, but whole $2,000 for the work that I did.
It was always, I'll loan you, you know, I'll give you money when I get it.
I did do a lot for her and her son.
I finally realized he was never going to pay me back unless I did something about it.
That's how things go.
Not to do it again.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of LeBron versus Pat Bird. Step forward, please.
Receptionist Peggy LeBron is suing former friend, mechanical engineer Greg Patberg, for walking through a plate glass window in her home. Peggy says Greg was drunk on vodka.
This case is really sort of interesting. Miss LeBron, your husband was arrested.
Yes.
Because he went to shoot some of your neighbor's dogs with a BB gun.
Correct.
And as the police were taking him away, he told you to go and get the defendant, who was a bail bondsman.
Well, before that, Your Honor, he came back into the house. He got into an altercation with the neighbors because they saw him shooting at their dog. He came back into the house and got a real gun and pointed it at the neighbors.
Oh, so this time he pointed a real gun.
Correct.
Bottom line is, as the police were taking him away, he told you to go get the defendant, who was a bail bondsman.
No, he knows bail bondsman.
Or he knows bail bondsman. So what did you do? Where did you go to get him?
He lived right around the corner from our house.
So according to you, you went and you got him and you invited him over to your house.
Correct.
And he sat there all day drinking vodka and orange juice. And he got drunk and proceeded to break a plate glass door in your house. And you want him to pay for the door.
Yes,
That's what this case is about. Do you understand?
I heard it. I just don't.
All right, now, Miss LeBron, I have a couple of questions for you. They take your husband away, you go around the corner, and you get Mr. Patberg. And what do you say to him?
I said that my husband was just arrested and that he wanted me to come get him because he knows bail bondsmen.
And he said, okay, I'll come to your house?
Correct.
Now, did he come back to the house with you?
Yes.
What time of the day or evening was this?
It was early in the morning.
Now, when he got there, what did he say to you?
He called a bail bondsman.
And did he make arrangements?
Well, they had to wait until my husband was processed.
Now, where did he get this vodka from?
I don't remember exactly where he got it that day.
I'm talking about that day. That's the day that he...
He always drinks vodka.
No, I understand. I don't understand that he always drinks vodka. I'm talking about that day. That's the day when he broke the door. You say he sat in your house all day.
Mm-hmm.
Until what time?
Until after my husband was brought back to the house later that night.
So he was drinking all day?
Correct.
Whose vodka was he drinking?
His own. I don't drink vodka.
So he brought the bottle with him?
He would have had to have.
Where'd you get the vodka from?
I believe we went out later in the day and purchased it.
What do you mean you believe?
Well...
Shh! What do you mean you believe? You got drunk. That was clear. That's what she says. That's what you say.
Yes, that's correct.
And you were drinking all day?
No, I was not drinking all day.
A part of the day?
A part of the day.
Where did you get the vodka from, is my question.
From the liquor store.
Where was the liquor store?
Well, less than a mile away.
How did you get there?
Peggy gave me a ride.
Did you give him a ride to the liquor store?
I could have. I have before.
Were you drinking too?
Not vodka.
I don't care what you were drinking. Were you drinking too?
Beer.
So you don't remember whether you gave him a ride to the store? You could have.
I could have.
Let's say you did. Miss LeBron, you allowed him to get drunk in your house. What do you want from me? Should have said, take your vodka and go home. You're lucky he's not suing you for almost killing himself going through your plate glass door. This is a very easy lesson. If you allow someone to become inebriated in your house, and in this case, you don't even remember because you were probably so looped yourself you don't even remember getting in your car and taking him to the liquor store. But if you permit him to get so drunk in your house that he staggers through a plate glass door, you are responsible. Totally responsible. You're not supposed to furnish a place where somebody can get so intoxicated that they can hurt themselves, certainly not cause damage to your place. They cause damage to your place. You pay for it. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy.
He got drunk and fell through my sliding glass door and broke it.
I'm not denying that I broke the door. I broke the door.
Figured he would take some responsibility for his own actions.
I did try and take responsibility for the door.
He hasn't lived up to his responsibility at all.
I went to the store, purchased plywood, and at least put plywood in replacement of the glass.
It wasn't because I was inebriated. I don't drink and drive.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Batiste versus Franquitos. Step forward, please.
Sports attire salesman Edgar Batiste is suing former friend, 24-year-old bartender Alicia Franquito, for selling him bogus airline tickets.
Mr. Batiste?
Good evening, Your Honor.
According to your complaint, sir, you purchased some Buddy airline tickets from the defendant. I don't know what these are. You're going to explain that to me. And according to you, you didn't get what you paid for. You want your money back. And it says you don't get your money back. This was a final sale. So first, you want to tell me what a Buddy ticket is, sir?
Yes, Your Honor. I purchased 3 Buddy passes from Alicia Franquito.
Could you keep your voice up? I want you to tell me what they are. I've just told you. They're Buddy passes.
Yes.
What are they?
They're airline travel tickets.
I never heard of that. Can I see what they look like?
Can I explain it to you?
Sure.
Basically, if someone works for an airline, they can give free tickets to people, and I had bought them from a friend who knows the person who works for the airline.
Just a minute. So the airline give to their employees free tickets.
Yes.
That they can use like a companion ticket?
Yes.
So that the airline employee can take a companion with them to go someplace.
Or they can just give them away to people to use.
But they're not supposed to sell them.
Right.
They're not supposed to sell them.
Exactly.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Mr. Batiste, well, it says right here that this can't be sold, right? Did you read that?
No, I didn't at the time, Your Honor. I didn't.
Well, you knew it couldn't be sold or bought. You know that, right?
Yes, ma'am.
In any event, The reason you want your money back is because they told you that you had to pay a certain amount of money in addition to these tickets to
Yes,
travel?
ma'am.
And the person you sold them to somebody else.
Some friends were supposed to travel.
You sold them to somebody else.
Yes, ma'am.
And the person you sold them to said, I want my money back because it says that I had to give them more money to use these tickets, according to your complaint. And now you want your money back from her.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
she should get her money back from the person she bought them from. Right?
Yes.
So am I correct that this is a whole little scam? Somebody who works for the airlines gets free tickets, and then they start selling them. How much did you pay for them?
40.
You paid 40. You sold them to him for 175 apiece. Right? Shh. And how much did you sell them for?
My friends paid me $175 each, Your Honor.
So you were even.
And I paid her. Yes, ma'am.
Give those back to him, please. Okay?
Okay.
Good. Mr. Batiste, I'm going to tell you what the law is, what we call the doctrine of clean hands. That means that when you come into a court of law and ask a court to give you justice, you have to come in with clean hands, not having done anything wrong with regard to the particular events surrounding the case. You did something wrong. So did she. You did something wrong by buying black market tickets. She did something wrong by buying black market tickets. So do you know what courts say to folks like you who did something wrong? They tell you to get out. They say, don't waste our time. We're not interested in trying to help people who are doing the wrong thing. We have enough time to spend trying to help people who are doing the right thing and getting screwed. We don't try to help people who you screw a little bit, she screws a little bit, and then you come into court and say, please help me because I was screwed more than her. We don't have time for that. Goodbye, Mr. Batiste.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
I sort of expected this decision.
I expected it.
My buddies gave me the money. They're out of the money. I'm out of a little money myself.
I don't know. I just knew I shouldn't have done it in the first place.
Next time I will do my ticket buying through an internet service.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Coker versus Coker. Step forward, please.
Homemaker Wanda Coker is suing her ex-daughter-in-law, restaurant manager Charlotta Coker, for unpaid rent, living expenses, and the cost of a freezer.
Mrs. Coker, the defendant is your former daughter-in-law.
Yes.
Who are you, sir?
I'm her son, her ex-husband.
According to your complaint, you believe that your former daughter-in-law owes you for some rent, for some miscellaneous expenses, and for a freezer that she promised you.
Yes, they had moved
Okay,
back.
just a minute. When were you divorced from your husband?
It was finalized September 19th.
And when did you separate from him?
December 20th of last year.
And how long were you married?
We were married for 5 years.
Do you have any children together?
Yes, we do.
How many?
We have one.
How old is that child?
He's 6.
Who does he live with?
He lives with me.
Is that correct?
We have joint custody.
Who does he live with the majority of the week?
It's about 50-50.
Okay, so you live close by
Yes,
to each other.
yes.
All right, Miss Coker, you want to tell me when your daughter-in-law lived with you that you claim she owes you rent?
They came back in June, right after school had gotten out last year.
Who's they?
Her and her 2 children, actually her 3 children, and my son were moving back here to get a divorce because it would be cheaper to move all their stuff together.
And they came to live with you?
She and the 2 kids did. Then she went back, along with my son, to pack their belongings and have them transported back. But she had left her 2 older children with me.
What period of time do you allege she owes you rent for? Give me the month and year.
From June through December.
June of 01 through December of 01.
Right.
And was she living with you alone or with your son?
No, he was in rehab. He had went to rehab.
For alcohol, I see.
Right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
The freezer's still at her house. I didn't tell her she couldn't have it. I just want to say that it's my freezer. She told me I could have it.
I don't know what you want. You want me to make a judgment as to whose freezer it is? I don't have to do that.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Wanda Coker says Ex-daughter-in-law Charlotta Coker owes for rent, living expenses, and the cost of a freezer. Charlotta says she was forced to live with Wanda when her husband entered rehab.
Okay. Is that correct? When you came back in June, he was planning to go into rehab?
He was planning on it, yes. And it was in July
that he went?
When we came back to Wichita.
In July, you came back as a family?
We came back as a family. We weren't coming back to get a divorce. We were coming back as a family, trying to work things out.
And you were going to live with your mother-in-law?
Yes, stay there until we could get a job, get on our feet, yes.
Fine. What arrangement do you claim there was for rent?
When they moved all their things back, she had told me that she had a deep freeze that I could have for part of the rent.
You mean while your son was in rehab?
Right. Well,
yeah, go ahead.
Right.
Go ahead. So?
So in the meantime, when they were here, they had this dog that she had brought back that tore up my back storm door.
What do you mean she had brought back? Where was your son? Did he come back too?
He had came back, but he went into rehab.
Just a second. He came back, and they brought a dog. Is that right?
Right.
All of them as a family. Your son, your daughter-in-law, your grandchild, and her 2 children. They all came back together with a dog.
But then she flew back out and decided she was not coming back to Kansas. She was going to make her home in Washington.
Okay. When was that?
That was about July.
All right. How long was she gone in July?
Probably a month.
So then she came back in August?
The latter part of August.
What period of time, I'm saying to you, do you claim she owes you rent for?
At least 4 months.
What 4 months?
For June, she didn't.
She doesn't owe you any money for June. Get it from him. July? She doesn't owe you any money for July. You haven't told me you had an agreement with her. Get your rent from him. Now, when did she come back by herself?
It was the 1st of October.
She came back by herself.
October. I know it was before Halloween.
She came back October 1st.
It was in October, yes.
Where was he?
He was in rehab.
Okay. And what did she say to you when she came back in October?
She told me that they had that deep freeze that I could have for part of the rent. She could not afford to pay me anything.
So what are you suing her for rent for? You're suing her for rent.
Well, the children weren't my grandchildren. And
so what you have to have an agreement for rent, madam. You don't have it. You didn't have an agreement.
She was the one that told me that I could have the deep freeze for
part of the rent. Not talking about the freezer, madam. You said rent.
That was for part of the rent.
Ms. Coker, you're not following me, madam. I mean, I think that your whole lawsuit is ridiculous. You're suing the mother of one of your grandchildren when there is a divorce, and it appears to me that your son and your former daughter-in-law have a reasonable enough relationship to share custody, and you are foolish enough to sue her for a deep freeze. Foolish enough. Now, I don't understand that. She comes to your house. Your son is an alcoholic. He's going into rehab. He's not providing for his family. She has a baby and 2 other children, right? She's trying to keep it all together. And you're suing her for a deep freeze? Where is your brain? Where is your mind?
I have proof that the dog tore up my back door.
He brought the dog.
No,
he brought the dog.
The dog was not his. The dog was hers.
Listen to me. According to you, they came back in June with the dog. If you didn't want the dog, you say to your son, get rid of the dog. You don't complain a year later and say the dog ripped apart my screen door. You say to your son, you can come back with your wife and the children, but you have to leave the dog home.
He tried to get rid of it.
What?
He tried to get rid of the dog, and she wouldn't let him.
Then you say you all have to leave.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Listen to me, madam. You are a very foolish woman. You have a grandchild. I don't know how many grandchildren you have, but it appears to me, I'm going to say it again, these 2 people don't appear to me to be at odds with each other. They share custody of a child, 50% custody, and there shouldn't be any problem with you mixing up trouble between the 2 of them so that he comes to sit to testify on your behalf against her. That's just not smart. So I have heard nothing with regard to rent. She didn't agree to pay any rent. He's responsible for necessaries for his children. He wasn't providing for necessaries for his children because he's an alcoholic and he was in rehab. During that time, you filled in for him. You're a very good mother. Now, let's talk about the freezer. Did you promise her a freezer?
No, I did not.
All right. What did you say to her with regard to the freezer?
Nothing. We brought it over to her house so we could put extra food in it because her freezer wasn't big enough for all 6 of us.
And when you left, what did you do with the freezer?
The freezer's still at her house. I haven't got it yet.
You still have the freezer at your house?
I didn't tell her she couldn't have it. I just want to say that it's my freezer. She told me I could have it for part of the rent.
Just a second. Shh, oh, be quiet. Just a second. Are you going back to get the freezer?
Yes. I mean, what does she need a freezer for? There's only one in her family.
Listen to me. I don't know what you want. You want me to make a judgment as to whose freezer it is? I don't have to do that. I don't have to do that. I don't know why you're here, Mrs. Coker. All I can say to you is you better wisen up. You have a grandchild. You want to maintain a reasonable relationship with the mother of your grandchild? I would suggest that you don't get into a contest with her about whose freezer it is. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Well, she's flat lying about it.
She did this all out of spite.
Her dog tore up my back door.
Because I divorced her son.
And also the deep freeze. She had told me that I could have it.
He did tear up the back door, but my husband did fix it at the time.
I feel like that she owed me the deep freeze and fixing my door.
No, I don't.
When they were in Washington, they lived in a $250,000 home and they split the equity.
I don't think anybody owes anybody anything.
So yeah, there was his responsibility to her because she didn't work day one.
School bus driver Dolly Hilton is suing her boyfriend's ex-girlfriend, leasing consultant Andrea McElroy, for keying her car. Andrea is denying the charge.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. All rise.
Your Honor, this is case number 286 on the calendar in the matter of Hilton versus McElroy. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have seats, please.
Miss Hilton, the defendant is a friend of your current boyfriend's. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And it is your claim that for some bizarre reason, she vandalized your car. You were not present when that happened. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And yet you believe that she did it. The defendant says she had no reason to vandalize your car and she didn't do it. Boyfriend?
Yes, ma'am.
Who's he?
He's a friend of her boyfriend's.
Who saw her vandalize your car?
Joseph.
Joseph, step up, please. Joseph, what's your last name?
Guillory.
Mr. Guillory, I want you to tell me, start from the beginning, sir, and tell me what you know about this evening, which is the 25th of July, 2002.
Okay. Me and Andrea and my friend Dre and another girl named Bridget, we went to the club called the Hurricane Hut. We were all having a good time. We had a few drinks. And after the club, we came back to my stepmom's house. We were playing a sex game.
A what?
A sex game.
Sex game?
Right. It's called an authorization game. And Andre asked me, can he mess with Andrea?
Andre asked you.
Right.
If he could mess with this lady.
Right.
Why would he ask your permission?
Because we was playing an authorization game.
Oh, that's part of the game.
It's part of the game.
Go ahead.
And I said, yeah. And I had to ask her, can I mess with her friend, Bridget? And so they were messing around, and we were messing around. She looked over and saw me. Well, she saw Bridget sliding up and down on me and thought we were having sex, but we wasn't. And she got mad, and she said she was fisting to go. And I said, well, I'm fisting to go too. She said, well, where are you going to spend the night tonight? I said, I'm going home to Dolly.
To this lady?
Right. She got mad and said, oh, you going home to that? And so they walked out.
Who walked out?
Andrea and Bridget. So I proceeded to walk out too, but I was like about 3 or 4 minutes behind them. So I just happened to look out the window and I seen her keying up the car.
Keying whose car?
Dolly's car.
You mean you had driven her car that evening? You didn't tell me about it.
No, her car was parked in the parking lot. And we took my homeboy's car, but when we came back, yeah, Dolly's car was still there.
So you drove her car over to this apartment complex where you proceeded to go out for the evening drinking in another car and then come back to your stepmom's house, have sex with a whole bunch of other people, and then you were going to go back to her house with her car. Was that your plan?
Right.
And when you came out, you saw her car in the parking lot, and you saw her doing what?
She was keying the car, and her friend Bridget was right behind her.
What do you mean you saw her keying the car?
Well, I couldn't see what she had in her hand, but she was just going down the car with,
No, it wasn't.
Okay, so what did you do next?
So I proceeded to go outside, but by the time I got all the way to the car, she already had then walked away and hit me on the cell phone, called me on the cell phone. And she said,
called you on the cell phone?
Right. She said, I don't know who black car this is, but I just did up. And I said, why did you do that? And I told her, don't call me no more. She kept calling my phone saying, don't tell her, don't tell her. I said, why not? And she said, well, tell her somebody else did it.
Or else I'm going to tell Dolly what you were doing this evening.
I didn't even know her.
Right.
So she kept begging me to tell us that somebody else did it, but I wouldn't do it.
Now I'll hear you.
That night that we went out, it was on the 24th. It was the night before the 25th. We all met at his house. We were all hanging out in the bedroom, watching TV and stuff like that. There was no sex game going on. His friend came on to me, and I said no. And I seen him messing with my friend, and she said she felt uncomfortable. She walked away and told me, and I said, okay, we're leaving. And he said, why are you leaving? And I was like, because you're putting our relationship in a I didn't like where he was putting the relationship.
What relationship?
We weren't together, but we had a relationship. We were seeing each other.
How were you seeing each other? Were you
He'd come
intimate
and
with
visit
each
me
other?
when I lived in Austin. He came and spent the night at my house. It was an intimate relationship.
Was it intimate in the month of July of 2002?
Yes, it was. It has been for about 3 years.
Okay,
up
go
until
ahead.
that day. I've only met this girl one time, Dolly. I've only seen her car, I think, in passing, and I couldn't tell you what kind of car it was. The night that we came back, there was no big fight. There was no misunderstanding, no argument. I just told him I didn't like where he was putting our relationship, and I didn't want to talk to him anymore. So me and my friend Bridget, we left. We got in her car and we left. He called me asking me to come back. And we had some words on the phone, and then I got to my house, and that's when she called me. He went and told her that I keyed her car, and she called me telling me all kinds of stuff that I need to watch myself, that she's going to beat my butt or whatever. I never
And what
once
does he
said-
have to do with all this?
Because he's his friend. JoJo went and told him one day that he didn't know
Oh,
who
no,
keyed his car.
Step up. Tell me your name.
Q Logan.
Mr. Logan, tell me what you know about this. You clearly weren't there that evening, but did you at some point, she says, have a conversation with Mr. Guillory?
Yes, ma'am. The day after it happened, and he said that he didn't see it. He said he saw her standing near
That's
his
not
car.
true.
He was in the window. He was inside the house.
Yes.
In the window, he looked out
So
the
what
window.
did he say to you?
He said he seen her standing near the car, but since he was going to try to sue her, he was going to tell the court that he seen her key the car, which in essence, if you seen someone keying your car, wouldn't you try to go out there and stop them?
I was going outside.
It takes more than 2 or 3 minutes to key the word in somebody's paint job.
So who do you think did that?
I have no idea who did it, but JoJo takes her car at all times of the night. She has no say-so where she can drive her own car. He
Who?
drops her off at work.
You mean Dolly?
Yes. She pays all the bills. The only thing, the apartment is in his name. He goes where he wants, when he wants. He quit his job because he did not want to pay the amount that they wanted him to pay in child support. So he quit and went to his old job.
What child support? Who does he have a child with?
He has a child with another girl, not Dolly. He quit his
Not
job.
Dolly, not this lady.
No.
How old is the child?
Maybe about 2 years old.
So he had a relationship with somebody else while he was having a relationship with you. Is there at least one other that you know about?
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I.
So.
So.
What?
But see, I
Excuse
knew
me.
about it,
I'm
and
sorry.
I'm not a jealous person. I met that girl that was pregnant by him, and I took her over there to meet him. I never overreacted about anything like that. We had an open relationship, so I don't understand why he would say that I would key his car.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
That's what I would say to him. But for your antics, my car would be okay. I'm 100% sure of that.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Dolly Hilton says her boyfriend's ex, Andrea McElroy, keyed her car. Dolly's boyfriend, Joseph, says Andrea was angry over a sexual game they played with a group of friends.
What do you do for a living, sir?
I'm a cook.
Are you working now?
Yes, I am. I was working 2 jobs.
Are you? You pay child support?
Yes, I do.
But he quit his job making $40,000 a year to go back to working as a cook at
No,
KFC.
that's not why I quit my job.
Yes, it is. You told me it was.
He told all of us it was.
What's your current child support order?
160, and I gave her 20 more
160 a what?
a month.
How much do you earn at your job, working 2 jobs, sir?
No, I was working 2 jobs. I let one go on. I was working on the water offshore, and I was working at KFC too, both of them.
How much do you make now?
How much do I make now? About $1,300 a month.
What kind of work do you do, Miss Hilton?
I drive a school bus.
You have children?
Yes, ma'am.
How many children do you
I
have?
have 2.
Who pays the rent in your house?
I pay rent, and he also helps pay bills.
You know what he's going to do? He's going to pay for your car. You want to know why? Because I'm not 100% sure she did it, but I'm 100% sure of this. That but for his actions, you wouldn't have any trouble with your car. I'm 100% sure of that.
Your Honor, she...
No, listen to me. I'm 100% sure of that.
No.
I know that I'm not convinced by the required quantum of proof that I need to be convinced by that she keyed your car. I am, however, 100% convinced that but for him, according to his own testimony, your car would not have been placed at risk. Because let's see what he did. He took your car to go out with a bunch of other friends to a club without you. Now, that may be okay. Let's say that's okay. That you said, listen, you want to go out for an evening, go out for an evening.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe that you would say go out for an evening with an old girlfriend or a girlfriend who we had been intimate with for 3 years. Can't believe that he actually told you that. But maybe he did. Maybe I'm that old-fashioned. But let's say he didn't tell you. And then from the club, he went back to somebody's house where, according to him, they decided to have a party and play sex games. That's according to him. She said it didn't happen. But let's say I believe him. And it all got very unseemly. And then she got annoyed and she went outside. And maybe she keyed your car, and maybe it was the mother of some other one of his children who keyed your car. Maybe it was somebody else. But one thing I know for sure, but for his total lack of morality, your car would not have been damaged. So he's going to pay for it. See, he's going to pay for it. And I suggest that you make up your mind. Either he pays for your car and you say to him, because that's what I would say to him, but for your antics, my car would be okay. So either get your behind out of here, away from my 2 children, because you are nothing but a lowlife, and I don't want you, Mr. Lowlife, near my children, or fix my car and straighten up. You got it? Your case is dismissed. Period. End of discussion. Goodbye.
Michael Attar is suing his former clients, Mary and Michael Rhodes, for unpaid demolition work.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2115, Attar versus Rose.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Attar, you were hired to do some, according to you, demolition work and other work at a property owned by Mr. and Mrs. Rhodes. You gave them an estimate for that work. I think the estimate was $11,500. Is that correct?
Correct.
And it was outlined what work you were supposed to do. You started that work, and according to you, at some point there was disagreement with either or both of the Rhodeses, and they stopped payment on a check that they gave you. Correct. And the check that they gave you was for $4,200, and then you stopped work for them.
Yes, ma'am, we're finished.
So you're suing them for the canceled check and for other unpaid work that you did that you didn't get paid for.
Correct.
Mr. and Mrs. Rhodes say that they were not satisfied with the quality of your work. It cost them $9,000 to both replace things that were stolen from their property by either you or members of your team, something which I don't think that you question that somebody from your team, not you, somebody from your team may have taken metal property of theirs that they didn't own. So let's go back. Mr. and Mrs. Rhodes, is this a new property to you, or is this a property that you owned for a while?
It's a new property to us.
That's what I thought. Yeah. So is it a private house?
Yes, and we were remodeling it.
Okay, when did you purchase it?
We purchased in January of 2021.
Is it a single-family residence?
Yes.
How much did you pay for it?
$769,000.
Describe the property to me.
It's in northern Altaloma or Rancho Cucamonga. It's an acre property, has 2 levels on it, and a single-family ranch-style home on it right now. And what we asked him to do was demolition the lower half.
Do you have a photograph?
I do.
I'd like to look at the photograph of what you wanted him to do.
That's what the lower half looked like before.
So this whole portion you wanted him
correct
to demolish and remove the debris.
And grade flat.
Is that correct, sir?
I can't see from here, ma'am.
Okay. Well, I'm going to show it to you. To demolish it, flatten it, fill it in.
Remove all the debris.
Yes.
Okay. And did you have a written contract?
We did not.
Well, that's always a mistake.
Always.
How did you find him?
I believe I got his business card. It was on my personal car, I think at Home Depot. We had bought this house and we tried to find somebody to do the work, but...
Mr. Rhodes, let me tell you that the best way to find somebody is not somebody who leaves a card on your car at Home Depot or any place else.
Yeah. It was a difficult time to find contractors with COVID and everything at that time.
And at the time, I'm also going to add, because I read in the paper somewhere at the time, he didn't have a license.
He did not.
And you knew he didn't have a license.
Yeah.
That's the first thing I told him, Your Honor. I do not
Just a
have
second.
license.
They didn't say no, we didn't know. They said we knew. So you got somebody who had no license to do what you wanted him to do, and you got his number from a card that he left on your windshield. Did you ask for references? That's either a yes or a no.
No, and I'm not really sure actually 100% on where I found that card. I think
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean,
But he did tell us he was in the process of getting his license, that it was coming.
Yeah. I know.
What does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. You're two intelligent people. Okay. So you hired an unlicensed contractor to do work on your house and agreed to pay him $11,500. Now, Mr. Rattar, the $11,000 included labor and materials. Is that correct?
There was no material. It was labor and bins.
Well,
bins.
that's material, labor and bins to remove
Yes, ma'am.
all the equipment that you needed
Yes, ma'am.
to complete the job.
Yes, ma'am. I
Is
got
that
pictures
correct?
Of before, too, of what I was supposed to do, and I took a picture.
Well, no, I have that.
You have the wrong picture of me, Your Honor.
Okay, I'd like to see the picture that he has.
I was supposed to do from the post all the way to the other post, remove everything, and the pool and the deck.
Mr. Rattar, the $11,500 was an all-inclusive figure.
Yes, Your Honor.
One of the things that became an issue is a Bobcat.
Correct.
From what I'm piecing together, you hired somebody in a Bobcat to do a Bobcat. That's a big piece of equipment that knocks down something.
I rented a Bobcat.
And somebody who operated it.
My worker.
You didn't know how to operate the Bobcat.
I know how to operate Bobcat, but I was controlling the demolition site, ma'am. I was like many things
Just a
were going at the
second.
same time. I had to control everything.
Mr. Rattar, something happened with the Bobcat, the original one that you got. What happened with it?
It broke down on us.
No, it didn't break down on them. It broke down on you.
On us.
It broke down on you.
Yes.
So what did you do?
I took it back, and next day supposed to deliver me another one, but they sent me a drunk driver and another broken down Bobcat. I returned it. At that moment, I asked Mrs. Rhodes, can you please go down Home Depot, which is like a mile away, so we don't stop wasting time, rent a Bobcat or not.
Just a second. Why should she rent a Bobcat, sir? Your $11,500 included the Bobcat.
But I paid for it.
No. If you're going to pay for it, that's one thing. Then what are you sending her for? If your $11,500 figure included all materials, then she doesn't have to rent a Bobcat. If you rented one that didn't work, rent one that works. How much of a down payment did they give you?
Presume was $4,000.
When did you start the job?
I started the job on 15th of January.
When did you leave the job?
I was asked to leave on the 2nd of February.
On February 2nd?
Yes, ma'am. Not to go back, I'll call the cops on you.
Between January 15th and February 2nd, other than the $4,000, did they give you any other money?
Yes, Your Honor, they did.
How much money did they give you?
They gave me up to $7,000.
So they gave you an additional $3,000?
Yes, and $1,000 check.
Your Honor, that was within the first week we gave him.
It doesn't matter to me. My question was between January 15th and February 2nd, they gave you $7,000.
Correct.
Explain the other $4,200, which is the check that they stopped payment on.
Okay. I'll happily explain to you. The Bobcat she rented for me on her behalf, it cost $329 to rent per day. And I rented for one day only, but they charged me $800.
No, that's not correct.
Just a second. I didn't ask you anything.
Okay.
Do you have a photograph of what the property looked like when you left?
Yes, ma'am. The last picture I took before I was kicked out of the property.
You're talking, I'm not listening to you.
Michael Attar claims his former clients, Mary and Michael Rhodes, owe for unpaid demolition work. Mary and Michael are countersuing for lost wages, equipment rental, and missing property.
Now, they paid you $7,000.
Correct.
They wrote you another check.
The final check was supposed to be $5,000, but they only gave me $4,200 because they mined $800 for the Bobcat rental.
Just a second. First of all, the total bill wasn't 7 and 5. 7 and 5, even my rudimentary math, is $12,000. That would be $500 more than your agreed contract, which was for 11.5.
They gave me $6,500 because they gave me small checks. They gave me the first initial
Just a
check,
second.
and they gave me smaller ones.
Sir, you're the businessman, whether you have a license or not. I asked you before how much money did they give you between January 15th and February 2nd, and you said $7,000.
I didn't write it down, Your Honor.
Well, you're here asking for money, and you have to write it down.
I'm
You
asking
have to
for
have
work
some.
I've done performed already.
No, sir.
And I just did the job, Your Honor. I did 7, 8 other side jobs for them.
I don't care whether you did 7 or 8 side jobs. Your original agreement with them was for $11,500, including all material. Now, what you said to me was that they gave you $7,000, and you said they're supposed to give me another 5. Well, another 5 is more than your quote.
Ma'am, the balance was 5.
How?
The initial check, then they gave me $1,000.
How much money did you give them all together that he cashed?
$7,000.
Then they owed you $4,500 pursuant to your agreement.
We agreed to $11,000, not $11,500.
$11,500, Your Honor.
Anybody have any proof
No,
of
no,
what
no,
the
verbal
agreed
contract.
of what the agreed amount was?
We had a verbal contract with me, Mr. Rhodes.
Fine. I will indicate that it's $11,500. If they gave you 7, they don't owe you 5. They owed you the difference between $11,500 and the 7 that they gave you. Now, one of the things that you disputed, Mr. Attar, was this Bobcat. Who paid for the Bobcat? Show me.
They minus it from the final price.
Just a second. Was that an argument?
The argument about it is, Your Honor, is they rented for 1 day, but they charged me 2 days, $800. There's no Bobcat rental for $800 for 2 days. I got.
Do you have the bill for the Bobcat?
I do, yes. And it was for 2 days.
Go over a certain time.
Because it was returned late. So they charged a second day. But in his text messages, he did request it for 2 days.
Is that the total price?
Yes. And I did not subtract it
Just
from his payment.
Total contract was $652.74?
Yes.
Do you have a photograph of what the property looked like when you left?
Yes, ma'am. The last picture I took before I was kicked out of the property.
You're talking, I'm not listening to you. Just show me a picture.
Yes, ma'am. This is not a picture.
Mr. Attar, you're the businessman.
Yes, ma'am.
This is your company.
Yes, ma'am.
Company requires A, a license before you operate, which you didn't have.
If you do.
B, it requires a written contract. You're the businessman. They're people who bought a house who got your number off a windshield someplace. You're the businessman, and you want the parameters. You want them fixed. So I don't know if it's 11,000 or 11,500. Do you understand?
Very much, Your Honor.
Right. Well, that's your mistake. You look as if you've probably been in business for a long time.
14 years.
And is what you're telling me you don't have written contracts?
All my contracts are verbal.
Then how many times have you been in court, sir?
Never.
Never.
I've never had a stop
That's-
payment check. Never
Well,
paid me on time, Your Honor.
It's the problem, sir. When you finished, the debris wasn't all removed.
That wood, they kept telling me, don't touch it. Their neighbor, cousin, whoever's going to come pick it up. That was just cut cord wood.
No. There's brick, there's wood, there's cement.
We cleaned all that. I personally cleaned all
Just
that.
a second. What I asked you, Mr. Attar, was show me a picture of the property when you left. This is the picture that you showed me.
That was the last, before I had more work, I came in and did more. I wasn't taking
have
pictures. I wasn't expecting somebody to stop payment on a check, Your Honor. I was
have
not
pictures
expecting
of
that.
what it looked like when he left.
What about after
Well, what are you showing me here? This brick that's here?
They piled it there and then left it there.
Well, that's probably a good
No, it was
Keep it on the
supposed to
side,
be. It was supposed to be removed.
So this is the back.
That's the
This is-
picture of the sagging patio because he removed part of the supports that were holding up the patio that he wasn't supposed to. So it's now sagging.
Now, this is the picture that you gave me when you told me
That's
this is what you
standing-
wanted, leveled, cleared, and made flat. Right. Now, I want to see your picture of what this looked like when he left.
You have it. It's in some of those photos.
That's leveled.
You're talking about this?
Yeah.
That's part of it. The close-ups, that's part of it.
Well, it looks like most of the stuff is done. It looked like a lot of cleanup left.
No, ma'am. We've done all the cleanup.
Well, I haven't
was
seen
also-
that, so then what you're supposed to do is take a
They were
photograph.
taking
It
pictures
was
while I
also
was still-
buried underneath. These are the photos of when we did it ourselves and really leveled it out. And as we were doing that, we found so much buried underneath that should have been removed, but his Bobcat person buried it all.
Your Honor.
I mean, buried
all the debris, all the concrete brick.
Okay,
and
let me see the bill from the...
No, we did it ourselves. We rented equipment and did it ourselves on his vacation.
Oh, nice. Okay. $4,500 is so far what's owed on this contract. Now, your counterclaim is money owed for lost work, equipment rentals, labor and missing damages to property. What money owed for lost work?
During the second week that he was working, he called and said that his crew had left. This was the second day of supposed to be use of the Bobcat that I rented.
Okay, if you interrupt me again, I'm just dismissing your case. Do you understand?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Very good.
So
just explain lost work. Who's lost work? Oh, forget it.
Well, he called and said his crew left.
Forget
He
it.
can't finish the job.
You weren't living there.
Not yet, no.
You weren't living there. Okay. He wants to go. I'm not interested in his lost wages for taking care of his house. So far, you owe the man the balance on his contract, unless you had somebody else do it, which is absolutely fine. And I would look at that removal of debris, what it costs you, and you're absolutely entitled to that. Deducted from what you owe him, which is $4,500.
But he didn't finish the job.
Just a second. You tell me, how am I supposed to gauge how much of the job he didn't finish? Did he not complete $2,500 worth? $3,500 worth? $1,500 worth?
I think the $7,000 we paid him was overpaid. He didn't have to end up removing an entire pool. He only had to remove...
That's your problem. Just a second. I read that. You said it's not a big pool. It wasn't 8 feet. It was only 24 inches. He gave you a price to level everything. Nothing delineated. Nothing in a written contract. The pool turns out to be 2 feet instead of 6 feet or 2 feet instead of 8 feet. Well, if he was the contractor and he came out and he looked at the pool, he said, oh, this is an 8-foot pool, and it turned out it's a 12-foot pool, he'd be stuck with 11.5, just like you're stuck with 11.5 because it was shallower. Now, you owe him $4,500 unless you want to produce for me bills that you have for rental equipment, et cetera, and I will absolutely deduct that from the $4,500. Just give me the bills and the amount of equipment. Don't say nothing, Mr. Retard. Mr. Rhodes, did you rent a Bobcat?
The one that I cleaned up the yard with?
Yes.
I rented a piece of equipment.
Jump up!
Yes.
And you know how they pick up metal?
No, I don't know that, sir.
There's people
I'm a
that drive down
television
the street with
personality.
pickup trucks.
I don't know about people driving down the street to pick up metal. I've never had somebody drive down the street and say, I'm looking for metal. They don't even come down my street and ask if I want sharp knives.
Michael Attar has accused his former clients, Mary and Michael Rhodes, of refusing to pay for demolition work. Mary and Michael claim he never finished the job and stole their property.
Now, what did you rent?
A skip loader.
That's different from a Bobcat.
Yes, that's correct.
Smaller?
I would say bigger.
Bigger. And do you remember how much it cost you? Did you rent it from Home Depot?
No. It's from a local rental yard. I think it was
All the equipment we
in Ontario.
$1,300.
Yeah.
Find it.
Yeah.
Find the bill.
They didn't print it, so now I gotta.
How many days did you have it, Mr. Rhodes?
4.
I'm dismissing your counterclaim, Mrs. Rhodes. Do you want to know why? Because I asked him a specific question, and you answered. Do you understand? Do you understand? That part of your counterclaim, because you don't have it, you can't find it. So far you owe him $4,500. Not $8,600, but $4,500. Now, do you have any proof that Mr. Attar or someone from his team stole copper piping or whatever piping that you claim was missing? Do you have any proof that either Mr. Attar or anyone under his authority took property from you?
Yes. We have text messages back and forth.
Okay, I'll read them. Okay, so what you're referring to with regard to the stolen property is you send a picture and there's a little piece of pipe there, one piece of pipe, and you say, Mike, did you or your guys happen to grind off 2 metal poles and concrete blocks? The kids use those for volleyball nets. And he says, oh my God, no, sir, but I'm guessing the person whom I gave my medal to, no problem, Michael, please give, and I don't see the rest of this message.
Yes, so that was the beginning of things we noticed that were missing.
Oh, I don't care.
And
If this is what you're talking about?
Yes, he's saying he let a metal person onto our yard, and they went and took everything that was metal.
Okay. Okay, now, Mr. Rattar.
Yes, Your Honor.
I want you to tell me about the missing metal on this property.
She was standing right there, and there was a metal guy that drive down the street. And you know how they pick up metal?
No, I don't know that, sir. I'm a television personality. I don't know about people driving down the street to pick up metal. I've never had somebody drive down the street and say, I'm looking for metal. They don't even come down my street and ask if I want sharp knives.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Very much, Your Honor.
Do you understand?
Very much, Your Honor.
Okay. Who is this person?
This person was picking up metal, and I asked for permission. I said, ma'am,
Just
could
a
he
second.
come down the property?
Just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
Was this person picking up metal for nothing?
Yes,
Just a second. Yeah. You're a business guy. Mr. Rattar, somebody drives down the street and says, you know, I see you doing construction. Is there any metal around here that you want me to dispose of?
Yes, ma'am. They do a lot.
Yes. And then they look around. This is what you tell them. They look around and they take the metal for nothing.
Yes, ma'am. This would be cheaper for me instead of load it on my trailer and take it to the recycling metal yard.
So what metal did they take, sir? I assume
Everything
you watched.
that I gave him.
What
was
did you
right
give
there.
them?
Nobody went up there and cut no poles, ma'am.
Well, they sent you a picture of a pole, sir, and in response to the picture of the pole, you said, oh my God, I'm guessing the person whom I gave my medal to.
I'm guessing.
No problem. And then you say later, tell me what it is, and I will either look high and low to get it back or replace it. That's what you say.
Yes, I offered to replace it.
That's what you say.
I offered to replace it.
Now, next question. I need an itemized list and what the value was of the metal taken.
No, there's a list of everything. They're listed in there.
What is this?
Those are all the damages, but the metal is listed in there separately of the items that are missing.
No, it isn't. This is a whole bunch of other things that you prepared for this case.
It's in there underneath. There's the horse feeder. Part of the corral was cut off.
This is something that you wrote yourself.
Yes, you said an itemized list.
If they took 6 feet of pipe, get me a bill from Home Depot for the replacement of that pipe.
Oh, I have
all the bills for the replacement of metal, not what you prepared for this litigation.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood. Itemized list.
Did you take down a horse corral?
No, Your Honor, I did not take no horse corral. I have nothing
Horse
to
corral,
do.
is that metal or is it?
It's made out of galvanized metal, yeah. They cut pieces off of that were sticking up to take to recycle, I guess.
Just a second. Was there a 4-sided horse corral?
Yes.
That looked like this?
Yes.
That they took down?
They cut pieces that were sticking up above the horse corral, attached to the horse corral.
You're being petty. You're being petty. $306, Ram's price, galvanized wall-mounted horse feeder. Did you take a horse feeder?
No, Your Honor, I got no.
Yo, Mr. Rattar, $4,500. Judgment for the plaintiff. Counterclaims dismissed. We're finished.
This court is adjourned.
Well, his equipment broke, and he wanted us to rent the equipment for him.
Equipment died because things break down.
And then the next day, he calls and says he can't finish it.
At that moment, I didn't have a credit card to my name. And that's the honest truth.
So we pretty much figured that was job abandonment at that point.
I'm going to have a written contract in the future. Don't hire
Always
him.
hire a professional.
I could not believe that your first question to him when he said that he'd been working as a contractor for 14 years was, and you've been working all 14 of those years unlicensed?
Oh, yeah.
I was waiting for the question. I was waiting at the edge of my seat, and it never came.
Different minds. Yeah. Should have slipped me a note.
I should have.
You should have slipped me a note. No, that actually didn't cross my mind, but that's a good question.
Yeah, oral contracts and no license.
No license, but there's no question. He did the work.
Yeah, no, I agree.
He did the work, and they were really dickering over who was going to absorb the cost of this second Bobcat that they had to get, which was really ridiculous. If they had another contractor who came and completed the job,
You would have awarded that.
I would have deducted it from the $4,500 that they owed him. But absent that, the fact that he rented some sort of piece of equipment and came and cleaned up the property was not important to me, and the rest of their case was nonsense. Next time, they won't employ somebody for $11,000 from a card from your windshield.
At Home Depot.
From
Anywhere.
wherever, and not say, okay, listen, maybe I give him a shot. Give me 3 of your last references to call.
It's a good lesson to people out there,
I don't understand that.
Yeah.
Well, anyway.
Carlos Guillen is suing his former roommate, Nigel Pine, and her boyfriend, Gallo June, for property damage and stolen belongings.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2121, GN versus Pine Jagoom.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Guillen, you rented a room in a house that you were renting or that you own?
That I was renting.
It's a 3-bedroom house, and you live there with whom?
At the time, it was me and my sister, and then my cousin.
How long have you been living in that house?
I was living there previously with my sister for about 5 years, and then she then moved, and then it came over to me in 2020.
So you've been living there for 7 years?
About 5 years, yeah.
When did you decide to rent a room?
She came to me around early May, saying that she was going through a situation with her previous roommate.
That would be you.
Sorry, Nigel, yeah. Sorry about that.
How did you know her?
We worked together as servers. But then she came to me on the job saying that she heard that I had a room available and that she was going through it with some of her previous roommates before. She said she needed some place to stay, so I told her that she could stay with me until she got on her feet.
Is that the conversation?
No.
Okay, so let me hear your version of the conversation.
So someone did tell me he was renting a room. I did need a room for rent. As we all know, COVID did happen, so I wasn't in my place I had stayed previously. I was moving. And so I went to him and I said, hey, I heard you had a room for rent. He's like, yeah, girl. And I'm like, yeah. So I could pay, I can move in now, basically. Because I came to him May 31st, moved in June 1st, which was the next day. And he was like, yeah, girl, just pay $800 a month. Just give me $1,000 to move in. You're going to love it. You're going to love it. I'm like, all right, for sure. It's like, it'll be month to month. And that was it. It was never like till you get back on your feet. It was never like a helping hand. I paid to move in with him.
He never said it was a helping hand.
Well, he did just state that I was going to be staying there until I got back on my feet, which was never the case. I was staying there.
But you needed a room.
Yes.
Okay. And the rent was $800 a month.
Yes.
And he asked you for $1,000 up front as security.
Yes.
And when did she move in?
She moved in on May 30th, Your Honor.
When did she pay you for June's rent?
Immediately. So the day that she moved in is when she gave me the money.
So she paid June's rent?
Yeah, she did pay June's rent, yes.
And what about July?
She paid for July's rent as well, yeah.
And what about August?
She did pay for August rent, but she does owe me for utilities. She's about 2 months backed up on utilities.
What about September?
We weren't there for September because the altercation already occurred on August 27th and 28th.
Okay, so she was there for 3 months and she paid you for 3 months.
Yes, ma'am.
Your complaint is that there was an altercation, and at some point during her tenancy, she brought in a boyfriend who's going to uncross his arms.
Yes.
Who was living with her.
Mm-hmm.
And when was that?
So she told me previously to her moving in that she did have a boyfriend and that he would be there from time to time. I allowed it. During his stay and while they were there, they were always arguing. It was like commotion, like every other night. He would punch holes in the wall. They would constantly get into fights. So what happened to how this whole thing got about, one day I had came home and I actually have the messages here.
Those are the messages you had on your phone?
Between me and her men, yeah.
Okay, may I see those?
So he was
May I see
standing
them,
outside
please?
of the building. I came home around.
Just a second. I have to read them first, sir.
Yeah.
I don't understand what this is.
So I was pulling up to my house around 7 a.m. in the morning. He was outside sitting on the steps crying and smoking a blunt. He walked up to my car asking if we can have a conversation. I said, sure. He gets in my car. We're talking. He tells me that him and Nigel just got into a fight. Nigel kicked him out again.
He and his girlfriend got
Yeah,
into
he and his girlfriend, Nigel, had gotten into a fight.
This was on August 27th.
Yes, August 22nd, yeah. So we had the conversation. He told me that Nigel...
What were you doing look at me. What were you doing out at 7:30 in the morning?
So me...
No, just...
Me and Nigel, like the night previously, we had went out together. We got in pretty late. We were out drinking. We did get into a situation, but it wasn't a situation...
I just want to know what you were doing out 7:30 in the morning. That's my question.
I was just leaving and walking to my car.
Did you have a conversation with Mr.
We had
Guillen?
a brief 2 to 3 minute conversation.
Okay, but you had a conversation with him. Now, you had an argument with your girlfriend the night before, you just said. What kind of an argument did you have with her?
It was basically, we went out, we were trying to have a good time together. It didn't really kind of end up the night how I wanted it to go. She felt how she felt. It was never an argument of, you know, yelling at her or like we were going at it. It was just like...
Well, you had been out drinking.
Yeah.
And when you were out drinking the night before, did you have any altercation with your girlfriend while you were out?
No.
So you had the altercation with her in the house?
Yes, in the apartment.
Okay. Now, he works nights? What were you doing?
Nights and days, yeah. I'm a server bartender, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, he wasn't home when you were having these fights with this argument with your girlfriend?
Fight, not even an argument, but no, ma'am, he wasn't
He
home.
was not at home. And when he came home that morning, you were outside?
I was walking to my car.
He was outside on the steps crying.
I wasn't
Just a
on the
second.
steps.
Sorry.
Wasn't on the steps.
Just a
Didn't
second.
even have a
Sorry,
phone.
You have to understand, I move slowly but methodically.
Got you. Sorry, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, do you work?
Yes, I do.
Where?
Security.
Security for whom?
I lied.
What time do you report to work on the 27th?
On the 27th, I went to work late because of the situation that had happened previously that day with the cops, and we have the text messages of me texting my supervisor.
What situation previously that day? He wasn't home. So what situation previously that day?
What happened previously that day was that
Previously what day?
earlier during the day, he had...
That was 7:30 in the morning. You hadn't seen him.
I'm having
It wasn't the 27th.
That wasn't the 27th when that happened.
On
We
the
had the
22nd.
conversation on the 26th. Early coming back, it was 7 that day because we had got into it. I didn't see her at all after me and her had our little falling out. I'm walking to my car. We have the conversation. I go home.
You went home for what?
He said that I was living with her. I was never living with her.
You were.
You went home for what at 7:30 in the morning? What did you go home for?
To sleep.
To sleep. So what you're saying is it wasn't on the 27th, it was the 26th.
This altercation that happened with me on the steps, it either was the 26th or the 25th, but this happened way prior before the day on the 27th. The 27th is the day where the first police incident happened, where there was the actual dispute over him and her. He said that she didn't pay the first month's rent, which we have in the police report.
Okay, I've already determined all the rent was paid.
Right, but he has the dates wrong because the 27th is not the day that we got into the altercation.
What was the date?
It was the 22nd.
It was the 22nd.
22nd of August, 2022.
Yeah.
And I'm off Mondays and Tuesdays, so I was off. I went home to sleep after I left the apartment.
So on the 22nd, Your Honor.
On the 22?
Yeah, on the 22, which is a Monday morning at 7:30, I pulled into my garage. He was outside crying.
So it wasn't
came
on
to
the
my-
27th?
No, it was on the 22nd, yeah. 22nd in the morning, yes, ma'am. It was 7:30 in the morning. He's sitting there crying. I come in. He asks, can he come in my car to talk to me? We talk. He tells me that him and Nyjah got into another altercation. She hits him. He stops her from doing what she wants to do. He said that Nyjah expressed that she's talking to other people and that she just wants him to leave her alone. He then asked me, do I know about her dealing with any men or anything? I tell him I've only seen her with one guy. It was some light-skinned dude who she went to the bowling alley with. But other than that, I didn't see anything. I told him, with me being 25 and him being 20, I said, you're a young man. You have your own car, you got a place, you're doing stuff. You should be living life. You shouldn't be, getting beat or dealing with all this stuff. Just be young and live your life, That's when he then...
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you have that sort of a conversation with him?
Not at all.
Okay, tell me what...
The conversation was 2 to 3 minutes. I never entered his car. I was walking out.
No, tell me what you said to
Yes,
him.
I told him that me and her got into it. You might not see me around here. I don't know what the situation is. And he did tell me, focus on yourself. Y'all will be good.
Okay, so it's pretty much, so whatever. That was a discussion. You had a fight with her on the 22nd, and there was some registering some complaint.
Mm-hmm.
Sir, if you say you might not see me around here, we had an argument, it was registering some sort of a complaint. You didn't leave there happy on the 22nd.
Yes.
Is this right? You didn't leave there happy.
I never was upset, like how he's trying to make it seem. We didn't have this conversation of me being beat on or me crying.
You didn't leave, Mr. Jim, you didn't leave there happy that morning.
Yes.
Is that right?
That's correct.
You had an altercation with her the night before or earlier, and you stopped and had a brief conversation with him. I don't have to get into the nuances of it. You weren't happy. Okay, that's the 27th, and you say you told him you're a young guy. You don't have to...
live your life, yeah.
Live your life.
And then he then thanks me in those messages that I gave you right
Okay. Would you tell me what you know with regard to the vandalism?
Once I opened the door, I seen shattered glass all over the floor. His room was completely vandalized. There was a knife in the wall.
Can you explain these photographs to me?
I can't explain the photographs. I didn't do it.
Carlos Guillen claims his former roommates, Nija Pine, and her boyfriend, Gallo Jume, vandalized his property. Nija is countersuing for a false arrest, tire damage, and cyberbullying.
Now, 22nd moves into the 23rd, 24th. Anything happened the 23rd, 24th, 25th?
On the 26th, I had got a phone call from one of my friends saying that Nija, at the place that we were working at, was going around telling people that I was trying to sleep with her boyfriend, saying that I'm trying to make him gay and that I go for straight men.
Just a second.
All this stuff.
Just a second. That's all hearsay, by the way, unless you have a witness to that.
Yes.
And I assume that you could have a witness to that if you like. Did you, Ms. Pine, have any conversation at work with any of your colleagues about discussions that the plaintiff may have had with your boyfriend?
Yes.
Okay.
Your Honor.
Do you remember who?
It's actually another coworker.
Coworker.
A mutual friend between us.
Okay. And without going into the text of the conversation, were you registering complaints about Mr. Guillen?
Yes.
Okay.
Your Honor.
That's all. That's all that's
So
relevant.
with that being said, that following morning on the 27th, I then walked up to her room around 8 o'clock because, you know, she's living in my house. I'm helping her out. She's talking about me at my place of business. So I went up there to go ask her, you know, what's going on, what's happening. The moment I go up there, she's like, you're this and this and this. We start arguing at this point. Like, we're both yelling at each other. It's getting heated. She then tells me that she's going to have some dudes come and beat me up since I want to argue with a girl and all this stuff. Men then come to my home. 6 dudes come to my house.
How much later after the conversation?
This is probably like literally 10 minutes after the conversation. Like, this was very fast. She had these men come to my house. I saw one of the dudes outside. I was trying to, you know, go outside and just be like, look, I'm not trying to do anything to her. We got into an argument. I'm hearing stuff. Gallo, out of nowhere, comes from a corner and tries to swing at me. Once he does that, I then go inside my house, I go into my room, and I look at my window, and it's 6 men outside my home. She then lets these men inside the house. They're banging on my door, talk about bring your outside and all this stuff. Oh, you want to fight women, da-da-da. All this mess, banging on my door and stuff.
Was anyone else in the house other than the two of them?
It was my cousin with me at the time.
That's not your cousin.
No, this is my witness, Imani. It was my cousin at the time.
A witness to what?
A witness to the next day, Your Honor. But back with this day, my cousin was with me. He wanted to go out and fight and do it. I said, no, we're going to sit here and wait. The police end up getting called from the neighbors because it's 6 men outside banging and cussing and making a scene. The police then get there. There was an officer who, I don't know if she already knew previously or who she was cool with, but the officer said that because I'm a 6'8" man and she is a woman, she feels intimidated by me and all this stuff. So he told me that the men who were there is allowed to stay there because she is a tenant there and that's her place, so they're considered her guest. Once that was said, Your Honor, I immediately got everything that I could and I booked a hotel at the Westin. I stayed there at the Westin for 9 days. That day, she was going around on social media saying that I was scary and that I ran in my room and that I called the cops, just basically talking smack about me on the gram. Hold on, Your Honor, I'm trying to find it.
If I may interject, if I may.
Not yet.
All right.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. But she went on social media.
Okay, just a second. So was what you're telling me you don't have that unless
it might
it's
be in that file, yeah, sorry. But it's like a message of her saying like, oh, y'all won't believe who caught the police and ran in the room crying and like just talking smack, Your Honor.
Okay, here it goes.
Yeah. That's what she posted. Once she posted that and, you know, people start hitting me up.
I see it.
Yeah. Once she started posting that, people started hitting me up. They're like, what's going on, and this and this. So I then went on Instagram and I had made a comment. I called her for short, stands for because she was going around saying that I was dirty. She went around telling that I was dirty, so I just let it be known on social media that the only thing dirty was her. You know, since she was talking about me on the gram, I decided to, you know, react.
The truth of the matter is, although it's not pleasant, that's what people do on the internet.
Yeah.
And
I was just matching energy, you know? Yeah.
Got it. Let's get to your lawsuit, sir. So far, she's lived there 3 months and she's paid 3 months rent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Your claim is that during the time that you were in the hotel, when you were out of the apartment, there was damage done to the property.
Right.
Do you have photographs of the damage that was done to the apartment while you were out at the hotel?
Yes, ma'am.
May I see it, please?
Here you go.
Where did you go when you finally left the plaintiff's house?
After I got my U-Haul, he dropped me off to my uncle's house. And I
On what date?
So I went there the night of the 27th, August 27th, 2022, and I came back the next day on the 28th to get my things.
Okay, so he left on the 27th, you left on the 27th after he did?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you leave as well with your girlfriend? Correct. Where did you go?
I went to my grandfather's house where I was staying
And how long have you been staying with your grandfather?
all my life
Where do you live now?
with my grandfather.
And where do you live?
With my uncle.
When you finally got back into your house, Mr. Guillen, this is the way you found it.
Yes.
On what date did you come back? Did you find it this condition?
That was August 28th, Your Honor.
August 28th?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I had woke up to a whole bunch of phone calls from my witness, Imani, and a family member saying that they were there. They
No,
saw
don't-
the place.
if- You want to stand up?
Yeah.
Would you tell me what you know about what happened on the 27th/28th of August with regard to the vandalism?
I wasn't there the 27th, but we had a conversation that led to me coming to the apartment. So I came to the townhouse, retrieved the key to get inside of the house. Once I opened the door, I seen shattered glass all over the floor. His room was completely vandalized. There was a knife in the wall, but this was all like downstairs. Once I
I'm
realized—
going to show you these photographs, and I'm going to ask you if these photographs are a true and accurate representation of what you saw when you walked in on the 28th.
Yeah. Yes.
May I have them back, please, Kevin? Have you been to Mr. Guillen's house before?
Yes.
Was it always in good order?
Yes. He's a clean freak.
You moved out on the 28th for how long?
I moved out on the 28th. I didn't come back
Permanently?
after that, yes.
Permanently?
Yes, Your Honor.
Have you seen these photographs?
Yes, I did, actually. His family member sent them to me.
Okay. Can you explain these photographs to me?
I can't explain the photographs. I didn't do it.
Okay, fine.
I wasn't there, actually, and I have proof I wasn't.
That's a lie, Your Honor.
Now, just a second.
Yeah, okay.
Just a second.
It's crazy.
She may not have personally done it. The question is, he certainly didn't do damage to his own property.
Oh.
There is no, well, if you have proof that he did
I have
damage
proof,
to
Your
his
Honor.
own property, then I'd certainly like to see it.
I do have proof I was not there, and
I don't care whether you were not there or not.
Okay.
He can't show me he wasn't there, and your brother is not here, and he can't show me he wasn't there. So I have to decide if it was a stranger, the plaintiff, or this side, maybe not you, but someone acting on your behalf.
Carlos Guillen is accusing his former roommate, Nija Pai, and her boyfriend, Gallo June, of destroying his property. Nija claims Carlos had her falsely arrested and damaged her tires.
Right now I have damage.
What I would like to say—
No, I don't want you to say anything. I want you to tell me what proof you had that
All right, I
he
would like
damaged
to say,
his property.
I would like to restate. I have proof that he did not care about the apartment, that when I moved in, it was in horrible condition, actually, and he's not a clean freak. And I wasn't there to vandalize the apartment at all.
Oh, just a second. I just asked you a question. Can't you give me an answer? It's a simple answer. You said to me, I have proof that he vandalized his property. Is that what you said?
Well, I have, Your Honor, if I may.
Just a second. I want to make sure that that's what you said. I have proof that he vandalized his property.
His property was vandalized when I moved in, is what I'm saying.
Oh, no, madam.
And I did—
Oh, just a second.
She says, I have proof, Your Honor, he damaged his own property.
Okay, so all I want you to do is show me proof that he damaged his own property.
Okay, so I do not have video proof of him doing it, but based on my countersuit and the fact that I was falsely arrested and the harassment, the lies, even the online post that I haven't been able to show you yet, that he is framing me and that he did vandalize his own apartment. He didn't care about it.
Just a second. I'm willing to look at proof of any proof that you have that he vandalized his own apartment.
So around the time...
Not so around, just show me.
Okay, sure. So what I have in my hand here, Your Honor, if I may,
Kevin,
is this proof that before I moved in, the apartment was not well taken care of. And like I said, I don't have proof that he went in and did it himself, but I do have proof that the apartment was never cared about to begin with. And after he actually moved all his things out, which he claimed and stated on social media,
yeah.
he took all his valuables.
You can take these back. This is not what I'm talking about, madam. That's a dirty bathroom that you showed me. This is vandalism.
I didn't do
There is no question in my mind that this is vandalism. This isn't dirty house. It's disgusting. Somebody took powder and liquid. This isn't just sloppy and messy. This is clearly vandalism. So is that all the proof that you have? You said, I have proof that he vandalized his own property. I'm waiting to see that proof because otherwise there are certain things that ring true.
Well,
do you have
as far
any?
as that goes, I would like to recant that because I don't have proof that he did it, but I do have proof that I'm being framed. Yes.
You have to understand, Ms. Pine, there are two things. Either he vandalized his own property, which I find is unreasonable because he would have to live with all this filth that's in his bed.
Well,
I'm speaking. I'm speaking. I would have to find that he took a knife to his own sofa and destroyed the cushions to his own sofa. And quite frankly, I don't know this gentleman well, but he does not appear to be psychotic. Now, I don't say that he may not be a truth teller all the time, but he doesn't appear to be psychotic. So no person who's not psychotic does this to themselves. So either some stranger in the night came in and vandalized his property, or you, your boyfriend, and or your brother, who, did you say that you called your brother to come?
I called my father.
Your father to come?
Yes, and my father called my brother, and he came.
Just a second.
Yes.
I knew I heard brother in here. Did
Yes,
your
but I
brother
didn't call
come?
my brother.
Okay. Called at least brother. I don't know if father came too. So I have to find if it was total stranger, the plaintiff, or you, boyfriend, father, brother, friend, whatever it was. So all I'm asking you to do is, do you have any other proof, other than the nonsense that you gave me, that he caused this serious vandalism of his own house?
I do not have proof that he caused it, but I do have proof I was not there, and
I don't care whether you were not there or not.
Okay.
Do you understand? I don't care whether you weren't there or not. He can't show me he wasn't there, and your brother is not here, and he can't show me he wasn't there, and your father is not here, and he can't show me that he wasn't there. Do you understand? So I have to decide if it was a stranger, the plaintiff, or this side, maybe not you, but someone acting on your behalf.
To be continued.